out and I guess make fun of the remaining people who aren't going to be president. Okay, look, we're big fans of Vivek Ramaswamy, but let's be real. As much as we like the guy, and as much as a lot of us have routinely praised Ron DeSantis' leadership in Florida, none of these guys are going to be president, but I think it's still worth listening to what they have to say and then probably making fun of a lot of it or agreeing with some of it. You know, credit where credit's due. I don't know what Chris Christie is still doing here, but whatever, fine if he wants to be there. There is a bunch of news that might come up. Donald Trump basically said he'll be dictator for one day, just one day. And that was pretty funny. Joe Biden just canceled a whole lot more student debt. So we'll try to go quick because the debate is starting now. Before we get started, head over to castbrew.com to buy the best cup of coffee you'll ever have. Cast Brew is our company. It's how we sponsor the show. And if you like coffee, you'll like our coffee because Appalachian Nights, Rise with Roberto Jr., Stand Your Grounds, those are our three blends. You got medium, you got light, you got dark. We got ground, whole bean, coffee pods, and a whole bunch of other blends. We even got Mr. Boca's Pumpkin Spice Experience and our limited edition Re-Rise with Roberto Jr. If you like the work we do, you can support us by buying Cast Brew coffee, but also go to timcast.com, click Join Us. There's not going to be a members-only show tonight because we're going to be doing a debate commentary. But we will read your super chats periodically when we get an opportunity, and so get your super chats in. But you will get access as a member to our Discord server where you can hang out with like-minded individuals and join the party. There's pre-shows, there's after-shows happening in our members-only Discord. So again, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show right now if you like the work that we do. Joining us tonight to talk about this and a whole lot more is Tom Sauer.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, such a pleasure to be back here with you guys. Total honor. Really enjoy it. So I'm a Navy Marine Corps Special Operations veteran, and I run a company that serves exclusively veterans for mental health and addiction treatment. That's what we do. So I was in town on the Hill advocating for all the guys and gals who are really seeking help. So, but obviously having a good time.
Debate is beginning.
Enjoying this. Let's go.
Yeah. We got Hannah Claire.
Hell yeah.
I'm Hannah Claire Brumlow. I'm a writer for scnr.com, otherwise known as Scanner.
I have my crystals, and I'm Ian Crossland. What's happening?
And I'm Surge.com, and let's get right to it.
Let the debate begin.
News Nation, and we are live on News Nation and the CW.
Oh, the CW.
It is make or break time for the candidates.
I would love it if they had like an Arrowverse cameo.
With the primary starting just weeks away, and we have a lot to cover over the next 2 hours.
Ron looks tall.
So
I was looking at his shoes.
He looks tall. He looks taller. It's good
Candidates
for him.
will have 90 seconds to
Oh,
answer
look at he's wearing them. He's wearing them again.
seconds to
He
give
looks
a
good.
rebuttal
You
at
can
the
see his boots.
moderator's
You can see his
discretion.
boots.
You will all see
Can't
the
say
timing
that.
lights that will indicate when time is
Haley's
up
flag,
and it's
black
time
and
to
white?
stop talking.
Oh, he does not look
And the
good,
time
man.
we have
Wow.
is critical over the next 2 hours, so we ask the audience to please keep your applause to a minimum.
Excellent.
All right, with that, let's get started.
Is that Megyn Kelly?
On
Why
stage
is Chris
tonight,
Christie still here?
4 candidates,
Chris Crisco?
all
'Cause he's
vying to
wealthy?
become
I
their
don't know.
partner's
It's
nominee.
Crisco.
And given the state of affairs in our political
Yes,
system
he is.
right now,
He is large.
one of
They
you
gotta be
might
feeding
very
something to
well
keep him coming
do
back.
it. Even many Democrats now admit that President Biden is a weak candidate. Just as many Republicans acknowledge that former President Donald Trump's multiple legal troubles could imperil
Oh, Rumble.
his quest for a second term. All of which means one of you could wind up the leader of the free world. Having said that,
Maybe, just maybe.
Mr. Trump is nearly 50
Sure.
points ahead of all of his
All right, there we
29
go.
points ahead in Iowa, where the GOP caucuses are less than 6 weeks away. And so, as Republicans get ready to vote on whether any of you might be preferable to Mr. Trump, we begin with the question of electability. Governor DeSantis, your campaign and its super PAC have spent the most money, had the most high net worth donors, and had a wave of momentum coming into this race after your big re-election win in Florida.
He looks very
You were seen by
uncomfortable.
many as the candidate most likely to consolidate the non-Trump field.
He looks really
But
unhappy.
here we are, a month out from the first real votes,
Smile, bro.
and you haven't managed
They
to
tried
do
that.
it.
You
In
saw it,
fact,
right? Yeah. He got
Nikki
roasted over
Haley
smiling.
is beating you
bad,
in New Hampshire and South Carolina now, and closing in on you in Iowa. Not to mention Trump, who is not only dominating in the early states, but is beating you in Florida by over 30 points.
Jeez, just
Is it
laying
fair to
on
say,
him.
as Senator Tim Scott
Up
did
against the
when he
wall,
dropped
Ron.
out,
When
that
he
voters
dropped
should
out,
telling
hint,
you,
hint.
Yeah.
not
Rub it in.
no, but not now.
Only Rosie
So
O'Donnell.
we have a great idea in America that
Whoa.
the voters actually make these decisions,
Whoa.
not pundits or
someone
pollsters.
dialed that in.
I'm
Yeah.
sick of hearing about
That
these
wasn't us,
polls.
that was
I
them.
remember
Yeah,
the
that was
polls
them.
man.
in
That's not
November
us.
of 2022. They said there was going to be a big red
Nice
wave.
save,
It was
buddy.
going to be monumental, and that crashed and burned. The one place it didn't crash and burn was in the state of Florida. They weren't predicting that I would win the way I did, and I won the greatest Republican victory in the history of the state of Florida. I'm looking forward to Iowa and New Hampshire. The voters are going to be able to speak, and we're going to earn this nomination. And here's what we need. I am sick of Republicans who are not willing to stand up and fight back against what the left is doing to this country. You've got to be willing to stand strong, and you've got to be willing to beat these people. I'm the only one running for president that has beaten these people on issue after issue. We beat the teachers' unions when we did school choice. We beat Fauci on COVID. We beat George Soros when we removed two of his radical district attorneys. We beat the Democrats on election integrity. I have delivered results. That's what we need for this country.
Is that wrong?
And you have other candidates out there like Nikki Haley.
State governor of our lifetime.
Yeah, just terrible
anytime
campaign.
the left comes after her, anytime
100%.
the media comes after her. I did a bill in Florida to stop the gender
He's shorter
mutilation
than
of
Nikki Haley?
minors.
Oh,
It's
no, they're
child
both wearing
abuse, and
heels.
it's wrong. She opposes that bill.
I wasn't meaning
she
that as a
thinks
joke.
it's fine,
They're
and the
both
law
wearing
shouldn't
heels.
get involved with
got
it. If
stilettos.
you're not willing to stand
For
up for the
weapons or
kids,
something? What did
if
she
you're
call
not
them last
willing
time?
to stand up and say that it is wrong to mutilate these kids, then you're not going to fight for the people.
He's in trouble
back
now
home.
'cause he can never take them
I
off.
will fight for you, and
No, I
I will
can't.
win for you.
Who dropped 3 inches overnight on TV?
Yeah.
Ambassador Haley, you left government service in 2018 with just $100,000 in the bank. 5 years later, you're reportedly
Some
worth
brutal
$8 million,
questions.
Yeah.
thanks to lucrative corporate speeches and board memberships like you had with Boeing.
Here for one day, just one day. And that was pretty funny. Joe Biden just canceled a whole lot more student debt. So we'll try to go quick because the debate is starting now. Before we get started, head over to castbrew.com to buy the best cup of coffee you'll ever have. Cast Brew is our company. It's how we sponsor the show. And if you like coffee, you'll like our coffee because Appalachian Nights, Rise with Roberto Jr., Stand Your Grounds, those are our 3 blends. You got medium, you got light, you got dark. We got ground, whole bean, coffee pods, and a whole bunch of other blends. We even got Mr. Bocus Pumpkin Spice Experience and our limited edition Re-Rise with Roberto Jr. If you like the work we do, you can support us by buying Cast Brew coffee, but also go to timcast.com, click Join Us. There's not going to be a members-only show tonight because we're going to be doing a debate commentary. But we will read your super chats periodically when we get an opportunity, and so get your super chats in. But you will get access as a member to our Discord server where you can hang out with like-minded individuals and join the party. There's pre-shows, there's after-shows happening in our members-only Discord. So again, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show right now if you like the work that we do. Joining us tonight to talk about this and a whole lot more is Tom Sauer.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, such a pleasure to be back here with you guys. Total honor. Really enjoy it. So I'm a Navy Marine Corps Special Operations veteran, and I run a company that serves exclusively veterans for mental health and addiction treatment. That's what we do. So I was in town on the Hill advocating for all the guys and gals who are really seeking help. So, but obviously having a good
Debate
time.
is beginning.
Enjoying this. Let's go.
Yeah, we got Hannah Claire.
Hell yeah.
I'm Hannah Claire Brumlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com, otherwise known as Scanner.
I have my crystals, and I'm Ian Crossland. What's happening?
And I'm Serge.com, and let's get right to it.
Let the debate begin.
News Nation, and we are live on News Nation and the CW.
Oh, the CW.
It is make or break time for the candidates.
I would
on
love it
this
if they had, like,
stage
an
right
Arrowverse
now, with
cameo.
the primary starting just weeks away, and we have a lot to cover over the next 2
Ron looks
hours.
tall.
So
Yeah, I was looking
let's
at his
begin
shoes.
with tonight's
Tall. He looks
rules.
taller. It's good
Candidates
for
will
him.
have 90 seconds to
Oh,
answer
look at he's wearing them.
questions.
He's wearing them again.
60 seconds to
he
give
looks
a
good.
rebuttal
You
at
could
the
see his boots.
moderator's
You could see his
discretion.
boots.
You will all see
Can't
the
say
timing
that.
lights that will indicate when time is
Haley's
up
flag,
and it's
black
time
and
to
white?
stop talking.
Oh, he does not look
And the
good,
time
man.
we have
Wow.
is critical over the next 2 hours, so we ask the audience to please keep your applause to a minimum.
Excellent.
All right, with that, let's get started.
Is that Megyn Kelly?
On
Why
stage
is Chris
tonight,
Christie still here?
4 candidates,
Chris Crisco?
all
'Cause he's
vying to
wealthy?
become
I
their
don't know.
party's
It's
nominee.
Crisco.
And given the state of affairs in our political
Yes,
system
he is-
right now,
he is large.
one of
They
you
gotta be
might
feeding
very
something to
well
keep him coming
do
back.
it. Even many Democrats now admit that President Biden is a weak candidate. Just as many Republicans acknowledge that former President Donald Trump's multiple legal troubles could imperil
Oh, Rumble.
his quest for a second term, all of which means one of you could wind up the leader of the free world. Having said that,
Maybe, just maybe.
Mr. Trump is nearly 50
Sure.
points ahead of all of his
All right, there we
29
go.
points ahead in Iowa, where the GOP caucuses are less than 6 weeks away. And so, as Republicans get ready to vote on whether any of you might be preferable to Mr. Trump, we begin with the question of electability. Governor DeSantis, your campaign and its super PAC have spent the most money, had the most high net worth donors and had a wave of momentum coming into this race after your big re-election win in Florida.
He looks very
You were seen by
uncomfortable.
many as the candidate most likely to consolidate the non-Trump field.
He looks really
But
unhappy.
here we are, a month out from the first real votes,
Smile, bro.
and you haven't managed
They
to
tried
do
that.
it.
You saw it, right? Yeah. He got
Nikki
roasted over
Haley
smiling.
is beating you in New Hampshire and South Carolina now, and closing in on you in Iowa. Not to mention Trump, who is not only dominating in the early states, but is beating you in Florida by over 30 points.
Jeez, just
Is it
laying
fair to
on
say,
him.
as Senator Tim Scott did
against the
when he
wall,
dropped
Ron.
out?
When
that
he
voters
dropped
are
out,
telling
hint,
you,
hint.
Not
Rub it in.
no, but not now.
Only Rosie
So
O'Donnell.
we have a great idea in America that
The voters actually make these decisions, not pundits or
someone
pollsters.
dialed that
I'm
in.
Yeah.
sick of hearing about
That
these
wasn't us,
polls.
that was
I
them.
remember
Yeah,
those
that was
polls
them. That was
them, man.
in
That's not
November
us.
of 2022. They said there was going to be a big red
Nice
wave.
save,
It was
buddy.
going to be monumental, and that crashed and burned. The one place it didn't crash and burn was in the state of Florida. They weren't predicting that I would win the way I did, and I won the greatest Republican victory in the history of the state of Florida. I'm looking forward to Iowa and New Hampshire. The voters are going to be able to speak, and we're going to earn this nomination. And here's what we need. I am sick of Republicans who are not willing to stand up and fight back against what the left is doing to this country. You've got to be willing to stand strong, and you've got to be willing to beat these people. I'm the only one running for president that has beaten these people on issue after issue. We beat the teachers' unions when we
keeps saying
did
that.
school choice. We beat Fauci on COVID. We beat George Soros
Clearly
when we
them
removed
prepping,
two
like,
of his
they're like, you
radical
wanna use the word
district
beat, you wanna
attorneys.
use
We beat the
victory.
Democrats on election integrity. I have delivered results. That's what we need for this
not
country.
wrong.
And you have
Like,
other candidates
best-
out there
yeah,
like Nikki
best
Haley.
state governor
She
of our lifetime.
caves.
Yeah, just terrible
Anytime
campaign.
the left comes after her, anytime
100%.
the media comes after her. I did a bill in Florida to stop the gender
He's shorter
mutilation
than
of
Nikki Haley?
minors.
Oh,
It's
no, they're
child
both wearing
abuse, and
heels.
it's wrong. She opposes that bill.
I wasn't meaning
she
that as a
thinks
joke.
it's fine,
They're
and the
both
law
wearing
shouldn't
heels.
get involved with
got
it. If
stilettos.
you're not willing to stand
For
up for the
weapons or
kids,
something? What did
if
she
you're
call
not
them last
willing
time?
to stand up and say that it is wrong to mutilate these kids, then you're not going to fight for the people.
He's in trouble
back
now 'cause
home.
he can never take 'em
I
off.
will fight for you, and
No, I
I will
can't.
win for you.
Who dropped 3 inches overnight on TV?
Yeah.
Ambassador Haley, you left government service in 2018 with just $100,000 in the bank. 5 years later, you're reportedly
Some
worth
brutal
$8 million,
questions.
Yeah.
thanks to lucrative corporate speeches and board memberships like you had with Boeing. Weeks ago, you met with Wall Street heavyweights, including leaders from JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and BlackRock. Several other billionaire investors are reportedly ready to endorse you, or recently have, all of which comes
You looking at
with
notes?
expectations. Aren't you too tight with the banks and the billionaires to win over the GOP's working class base, which mostly wants
Yes,
to break the
next question.
system,
Yeah.
not elect someone beholden
If
to
she
it?
said yes, I might actually consider
Well,
it. I'd be
thank
like,
you.
wow.
It's great to be
She's
here.
owns
You
it.
know,
She owns
first
up
I'll
to it.
tell you, just to respond to Ron,
Yeah.
he continues to
Just
lie
to
about my
respond to
record.
Ron.
Oh,
I
geez.
actually said
If she
his
started
Don't
talking
Say
about the
Gay
value
bill
of the
didn't go far
military,
enough
I'd be-
because it only
I'd
talked
listen.
about
She's
gender
gonna dodge
until
her own
third
question
grade.
by attacking
And I
Ron
said it shouldn't be
DeSantis.
done at
It's
all.
not
but
a
that's
terrible
for
move, to
parents
be
talk
honest.
about. It shouldn't be talked about.
When they're
with
like, oh, she's
schools.
worth $7
In
million now.
reference
It's
to
like, that's pretty weak,
donors coming
actually.
on board,
If you're like a
we
governor,
will
an
take
ambassador, and like,
support
oh, I
from
had a book deal,
anybody we
like,
can
you
take
only
support
made
from.
$7 million.
But I have
That's
been
kind
a
of weak
conservative
for,
fighter all
you
my
know,
life.
like, come on.
I was a Tea Party candidate when I became governor.
Because it was popular.
We opposed every single corporate bailout we possibly could. We passed tort reform. We passed one of the toughest illegal immigration laws in the country. We passed pro-life bills. We moved in unemployment from 11% to 3%. We took on the unions, and we took on Obama when it came to the unions, the Syrian refugees, and everything in between.
just avoiding the
And so
question.
I've
I actually am really
and so
impressed
as
with Ron
much as Ron
DeSantis so
says that,
far.
that's not true. But when
Because
it comes to
standing
these
in those
corporate
heels
people that want to
is probably really hard.
Yeah,
but
we'll
it's
take it.
true. I mean,
But
stretches your
you can-
calves.
They don't.
Yeah.
I don't ask them what their
They got like a
policies
whiny
are. They
sound.
ask me what my policies
yeah,
are,
it
and I
is.
tell
Yeah.
them what it is.
It is.
Sometimes they agree with me. Sometimes they don't. Some don't like how tough I
Trump,
am on
Trump is
time.
like a schoolyard
Some don't
bully who's like
the fact that I've
ganging up
signed
on someone else
pro-life
with his
bills.
buddies behind him,
Some
going
don't
like, "Look at
the
that
fact
fat
I make
cow over
opposed
there.
corporate
She's so
bailout.
fat."
That
Yeah.
doesn't
Everyone
matter.
loves
That's
it.
who I am, and that's
true.
why
She just
the
doesn't
most
give
conservative
presidential
grassroots group in the country, Americans
Yeah.
for
I feel
Prosperity, grassroots group in the country, Americans
I
for
feel like I would
Prosperity,
never listen to her
endorse me.
with
She
that.
gives ex-wife to me.
I actually am really
And so
impressed
as
with
much
Ron
as Ron
DeSantis so
says that,
far.
that's not true. But when
Because
it comes to
standing
these
in those
corporate
heels
people that want to
is probably really hard.
Yeah,
but
we'll take
it's
it.
true. I mean,
But
stretches your
you can-
calves.
They don't.
Yeah.
I don't ask them what their
They got like a
policies
whiny
are. They
sound.
ask me what my policies
it
are, and I
is.
tell
Yeah.
them what it
It
is.
is.
Sometimes they agree with me. Sometimes they don't. Some don't like how tough I
Trump,
am on
Trump is
time.
like a schoolyard
Some
bully
don't
who's
like
like
the fact that I've
ganging up
signed
on someone
pro-life
else with his
bills.
buddies behind him,
Some
going
don't
like, "Look at that
the fact
fat
I make
cow over
opposed
there.
corporate
She's so
bailout.
fat."
That
Yeah.
doesn't
Everyone
matter.
loves
That's
it.
who I am, and that's
true.
why
She just
the
doesn't
most
give
conservative
presidential
grassroots group in the country, Americans
I
for
feel like I would
Prosperity,
never listen to her
endorse me.
with
She
that.
gives ex-wife to me. She's going to replace Kristen Gillibrand as America's ex-wife.
It was about prohibiting sex change operations on minors. They do puberty blockers. These are irreversible. Talk to Chloe Cole. She went through this. Now she's an adult. She's warning against it. She may never be able to have kids again.
Shout out Chloe
That
Cole.
is what Nikki Haley opposed. She said the law shouldn't get involved in that.
Which
And
is
I just
wild, by
ask
the way,
you,
when
if
she
you're
waffled on
somebody that's
that,
gonna
like,
be
what
the
the hell?
President of the United States, and you can't
I mean,
stand
his
up
campaign
against
has
child
clearly
abuse,
coached him.
how are you going to
whether we
be
can
able to
start.
stand
Now that
up
the field
for
is
that?
narrow.
That is the truth.
But Haley,
never
like,
said
did
that.
not give an unequivocal answer on this.
That if you have to be 18 to get a tattoo, you should have to be 18 to have anything done to
You
change
said
your
the
gender.
law should stay out of it.
No, she said it was like up to the parents, and it's like, no, actually, no, it's not. It shouldn't be up to the parents for that one. Sorry.
Coming back to this issue. Mr.
You
Ramaswamy,
don't get to mutilate your kid.
for months, you campaigned
we
as a
go.
unifier. Then you stood up at the first
My
debate
boy.
and attacked all of your competitors as bought and paid for. The second debate, you
What a
changed
time.
your tune, saying, these are good people on this stage, admitting you can come across as a bit of a know-it-all
Oh,
and
please.
rejecting the practice of personal insults. By debate number 3, you called Nikki Haley corrupt, accused Ron DeSantis of wearing high heels, and
Well, he
told
does.
Ambassador
He is.
Haley she should keep a closer eye on her daughter.
He's not wrong.
Can you see how
He's
this
like,
has
yeah,
led
and?
some
He's
to
like, that
conclude
was
you are
funny.
not, in
And?
fact, a unifier, and to question your authenticity?
Megan, I think there's a time and place for everything. We need somebody in the White House who absolutely is going to be a fighter when it counts. And I did say that there were some good people on that stage in that third debate. Doug Burgum was on that stage at that time.
Yeah, Burgumania.
Jokingly, Ron DeSantis is a good person, too.
Yeah, Burgum.
I want to go back, though, to Nikki Haley's comment from earlier that she is somehow not responding to the will of these donors. Nikki,
she's
you were
already
bankrupt
leaning.
when you left the UN. After you left the UN, you became a military contractor. You actually started joining service on the board of Boeing, whose back you scratched for a very long time, and then gave foreign multinational speeches like Hillary Clinton is, and now you're a multimillionaire. That math does not add
Hillary
up. It
Clinton
adds up to the fact that and when I
Yeah,
said
that's
they were
poison.
bought and paid
Yes.
for,
It is.
I meant the
Look at her face.
Republican establishment, not the
She got
Democratic
caught out.
She
establishment.
does not like
Now
him.
you have Reid Hoffman, the
not at
person
all.
who's
great.
effectively George Soros Jr., funding lawsuits across this country against Donald Trump to keep him off the ballot, funding left-wing causes. We discover this week that he is one of Nikki Haley's largest supporters. Larry Fink, the king
$8
of the
million
woke
she's
industrial
worth.
complex, the ESG
According to
movement,
Fortune.com.
the CEO
Like,
of
that's it?
BlackRock,
Like,
the
it
most
sounds silly,
powerful
but, like,
company
you're
in
a
the
governor
world,
and ambassador,
now supporting
book
Nikki
deal,
Haley.
famous
I'm
household
saying that
name.
this
From
vector
bankrupt
is
to $8
false,
million?
because
You
it's
can be
after
right,
that
yeah.
meeting later that day that she says that every American needs to be doxxed by having their ID, their government-issued ID, tied to what they say on the internet. So I think that this is far more corrupt than I even imagined when I entered politics. But I will say this. It is going to take a leader from the outside with fresh legs from the next generation to unite this country. Not the broken politicians who are puppets of the puppet
He's
masters,
great.
but the actual people in this country. Thomas Jefferson
answer.
was
He's
30
got the
when he wrote
riz.
the
He always
Declaration of
has.
Independence. I think it's going to take
Christopher, she's
somebody
still
whose
here.
best
Wow.
days in life are still ahead.
No kidding.
To see a country whose best days are ahead of itself. And I think I can reach that next generation better than anybody
On this
else
stage,
in this race.
on this stage, I'm Vivek all day, all day.
Easily.
He always can outperform everybody verbally.
He answered perfectly.
First of all, we weren't bankrupt when I left the UN. We're people of service.
It's
My husband is
takedown.
in the military,
Nikki
and I
Haley night.
served our country as UN ambassador and governor.
not
It may
servicing.
be
It's not
bankrupt to
serving.
him, but it certainly wasn't bankrupt to us. Secondly, I did serve on the board of Boeing. I
how
did a lot
Humphrey's
of work
swaying
with
back and
Boeing when
forth.
I was governor. They were a great partner to me. I served for 10 months. And then when they decided after COVID that they wanted to go for a corporate bailout, I've never supported corporate bailout, so I respectfully stepped back and got off the board. I love Boeing. They build good commercial
sure you do.
airplanes. They build airplanes for our Air Force. I am proud of them. They employ a lot of people in South Carolina. But that's why I left the Boeing board. There's nothing
totally
to what
why.
he's saying. And in terms of these donors that are
respond to
supporting
that.
me, they're just jealous. They wish that they were
jealous.
supporting them. But I'm not going to sit
Okay,
here.
AOC, they just want to date me.
They're just jealous because they got the sweet corporate defense.
Go to Governor
defense
Sanders.
defense
Are you jealous?
gig.
A book talking about ESG and these woke corporations and BlackRock. The idea that I want to do that in Florida, they were managing our part of our pension, and then when they did the ESG, I took $2 billion away from BlackRock. We took action. This ESG...
Why is the camera
Cameraman
shaking?
doesn't agree.
Yeah, that was weird.
And again, Nikki is
He
meeting
shook
with
his head
all
yes,
these
and the camera
people.
went no.
They want to use economic power to impose a left-wing agenda on this country. They want basically to change society without having to go through the constitutional process. We've kneecapped it in the state of Florida. The next president of the United States needs to be able to go to that office on day one and end ESG. And the fact of the matter is, we know from her history, Nikki will cave to those big donors when it counts.
Ron's 100% right. 100% right.
I didn't write that book, Ron, and the irony is Nikki Haley was heaping praise on me
Chris Christie has
when
not
I wrote
even
that
said
book,
anything
but
yet.
now I
I know.
worry. I was warning about the woke industrial complex in this country as
My
a
wife just
warning.
texted me saying
Apparently
this
she
looks
read it
like
as a how-to
Mystery Science
manual.
Theater
Just like she
3000.
reads George
You know,
Orwell.
we're just like
Okay,
watching
sorry.
and
So
commenting.
I think that's actually far more dangerous than.
That's a great
It's
show.
really important for people to understand.
Great show.
We're marching
Great
towards
show.
fascism under Biden. Jack Smith has subpoenaed every last retweet that someone has issued from Donald Trump in the year 2020. The only person more fascist than the Biden regime now is Nikki Haley, who thinks the government should identify every one of those individuals with an ID. That is not freedom, that is fascism, and she should come nowhere near the levers of power, let alone the White House.
I've got to get to Governor Christie.
Too heavy-handed to
but
use
can
the
I just say,
word like that.
can you speak?
I
appreciate
How you
that.
doing, sir?
Good to see you.
Can you please speak to the requirement that
I'm just
you
happy
said
to be here.
that
gotta get him
every
on the show. It would've been great if she was like, Chris, can you go?
Needs to out themselves. They're both
Discovered I got a flat tire and no one can help. It pays to be prepared. Keep this in your glove box. This thing is amazing. Why didn't I get this?
I would be happy to, and I love all the attention, fellas. Thank you for that.
Chilling.
You know, I'll say this. What I said was that social media companies need to show us their algorithms. I also said there are millions of bots on social media right now. They're foreign, they're Chinese, they're Iranian. I will always fight for freedom of speech for Americans. We do not need freedom of speech for Russians and Iranians and Hamas. We need social media companies to go and fight back on all of these bots that are happening. That's what I said. As a mom, do I think that social media would be more civil if we went and had people's names next to that? Yes, I do think that, because I think we've got too much cyberbullying. I think we've got child pornography and all of those things. But having said that, I never said government should go and require anyone's name.
That's false. He said, I want your name.
Yeah.
She absolutely said it.
These two are agreeing.
I know, right?
They should high five right now.
I said we were going to get the millions of bots.
She wants government ID to dox
Finish
every
what you're
American.
saying.
That's what she said. You can roll the tape.
They should play the tape. That'd be cool. I actually really love the Vivek Ron team up.
It's funny.
I want Chris to join.
Real
Why not?
serious
Why-
blowback. Understandably
Chris,
so, because it'd
take a
be a
shot.
massive expansion of government.
Actually,
we have
What if
anonymous
Chris goes,
speech. The
she actually did say it, I'm just saying.
He's gonna bring up a stool and sit down. They're never gonna get to his intro.
Pulls out a
It's
donut.
something that's important, and especially
Like
given
Maduro.
how conservative.
Can we make Nikki Haley as America's ex-wife? Can we make that a thing? Because it's just, I'm getting...
That means we gotta get married to her first. I'm not.
yeah, that's a good point.
Against our own
She's
people.
a massive
I
ex-wife.
have to say,
I'm going to give you 15 seconds, and then there is the governor, former governor.
because Ron is so hypocritical, because he actually went and tried to push a law that would stop anonymous people from talking to the press, and went so far to say bloggers should have to register with the state if they're going to write about elected officials. It was in the check your newspaper.
That's a
It was
gross
absolutely there.
mischaracterization.
I have never said government should.
No more.
Trample on your constitutional
You can come back to it
rights.
later.
This is more dangerous than the
You're
Democrats.
lying.
I love Vivek defending Ron. This is great.
That was awesome.
Just that
I'm usually not somebody who gets missed, but okay, let's go.
That's not true. 2%.
He's making a comment about his weight. That's
Listen,
what's
you
true.
endorsed
What it was.
Donald
He
Trump in
actually did. Yeah, he's a
2016
big
and
fella.
2020. You gave him an A for his first term. Since then, however, you've turned on him, calling him a liar, a loser, a con man, and someone who cannot win. You even said that you got
It's
into
like
this
in real
race
life,
just
you're like,
to
oh
stop
man, you are.
President Trump.
Oh, you're big.
His approval rating with Republicans is currently at 81%. Yours is at 25%. Your best state is New Hampshire, and even there, 2/3 of GOP voters say they would be angry and disappointed if you won. You have not stopped, Mr. Trump.
Yo, that was ice
And voters
cold.
may wonder how you could
got
possibly
some great
become the
questions.
nominee of a party that does not appear to like you very much.
Does not appear to
Well,
like you.
look, Megan, it's often very difficult to be the only person on the stage who's telling the truth. And the only person who is taking on what needs to be taken on. I look at my watch now. We're 17 minutes into this debate.
I haven't spoken
And
before
except for
this.
your little speech in the beginning, we've had these three acting as if the race is between the four of us. The fifth guy, who doesn't have the guts to show up and stand here, he's the one who, as you just put it, is way ahead in the polls.
Why does he need to be there?
I've got these three guys who are all seemingly to compete with, Voldemort, he who shall not be named. They don't want to talk about it.
He just gave him power.
The fact is that when you go and you say the truth about somebody who is a dictator, a bully, who has taken shots at everybody, whether they've given him great service
Whose ass
or
he
not.
kissed,
Is
by the way.
he seriously saying, I'm going to attack the most popular Republican right now, and that's going to make me win?
Who I endorsed in 2016.
How is he going to win a primary
by the way?
if Trump's
Maybe
polling
it's
at like
'cause they have
60 to
future
70% and he's trashing the guy?
Maybe those future aspirations are
speaking
now,
the
or
truth
maybe they're
against a
4 years from
dictator.
now. But the fact of the matter is, the truth needs to be told. And for us to go 17 minutes without discussing the guy who has all those gaudy numbers you talked about is ridiculous.
Money from Trump. There's no
I'm in
way.
this race because the truth needs to be spoken. He is unfit. This is a guy who just said this past week that he
rich
wants
coming
to
from
use
you,
the
bro.
It's like
Department
imagine
of
being in high
Justice
school and there's like
to
this
go
nerdy
after his
kid being
enemies
like,
when he
popular
gets
kid
in
is
there.
dumb. You're all dumb for liking him.
He is unfit to be president, and
He
there
is
is
right
no
for
bigger
calling
issue in
out the
this
truth,
race,
which is
Meg,
that Trump is ultimately in
Donald
control
Trump
of the
and those
GOP
numbers
in this
prove it.
debate.
Yeah,
Right.
I
Governor
appreciate that.
Christie.
I just don't think his criticism actually helped him.
Saying unfit.
Clap in just a moment, but I'd like to first get to some
Stop
questions
clapping.
on Israel.
Who's there? Do we know
Governor
somebody who's there?
Donors.
Tonight,
Where are they
as
currently
we
at?
speak, the war is
Nikki
back on
and
in
Ron's
Gaza.
and
Israeli
Christie's donors.
tanks
You don't
are
see
on
either?
the move and have surrounded
I don't know
the
where
home
you're
in
of
Alabama.
the leader
Oh,
of
I think they're in
Hamas.
Huntsville.
8 Americans have been
I wanna
held
text someone down there, be like,
hostage
"Can you
in
tell them to
tunnels
stop
beneath
clapping?" 'Cause it's
Gaza
not
for
normal
60
people that are
days
there.
now.
Yeah.
Who's this girl?
American troops and warships in the Middle East are under attack. How far would you go as president to secure the release of those 8 American hostages? And would it include sending American forces into combat?
Yes.
We have to look out for our people. When there are hostages, Commander-in-Chief, you have to do whatever you can to get them done. But the overall issue with this is this administration is trying to hobble Israel from being able to defend itself. They have a right to eliminate Hamas and win a total and complete victory so that they never have to deal with this again. Hamas wants nothing less than a second Holocaust. They would wipe off every single Jew off the map.
I'd love it.
They would destroy the state of Israel.
Someone would just answer
if we could.
the questions.
Joe Biden will say they support Israel,
Well,
and then they
he
do
doesn't have a good
nothing
answer, so now
but
he has
try
to
to
critique
kneecap
Biden.
them every step of
Yeah,
the way.
but you don't need to
You
give,
should
like,
not try to direct
can still
their war
try to
effort.
give an
We should
answer, and
work
it comes out
together
better
with
than
them
dodging.
so that they can bring Hamas to heel. Look, I served
that tells you
in
how bad his
Iraq
answer
back
is.
in the day.
He's so
I'm the only
unprepared
one
for
running
it.
for president that served
just said
in the
full-scale war.
military. I understand that part of the world. It's not the best part of the world. We do have troops there that Biden is leaving basically as sitting ducks. And you have the Iranians that are attacking these troops, and he's responding with basically pinpricks. If you harm an American service member, you're going to have hell to pay when I'm president. We are not going to let our troops be sitting ducks. We also need to look at what's the underlying problem here. Iran. Biden is doing nothing to bring Iran to account. You got to turn the screws on them. Don't let them have any oil revenue.
Iran and Iraq.
They send to Hamas, they
Hey,
send
we're
to
in America,
Hezbollah,
Tim,
and they
so-
foment jihad throughout the Middle East. So Biden has empowered Iran just like he's empowered other adversaries. We stand with Israel. They're our best ally in the Middle East. We have a unique relationship with them, and you will see a strong relationship when I'm the president of the United States.
But would you
Elizabeth,
send American troops?
Elizabeth, look. This is the problem with the first 3 debates. Ron gets asked a question, and he doesn't answer it. Your question was very specific. You said, would you send American troops as commander-in-chief? And
Thank you, Chris.
He went
Seriously.
on to this
He answered it. He said he'd
30-second
do whatever
hosanna about his
had
knowledge
to
of
be
the
done.
military and what we need to do, and
3
didn't
people
answer your question.
running for president,
Look,
and Chris Christie
when you're
assisted with
president
the
of the United
moderation of the
States,
debate.
you're not going to have a choice whether to answer that question or not. Your generals, your Secretary of Defense, your Secretary of State, your National Security Advisor are going to present plans to you. They're going to look at you and say, do we go or don't we, Mr. President? And you can't give a 90-second speech about your military service, as
So
laudable as it
would
is.
you send American troops in to rescue
I
those
would
hostages?
absolutely,
It's a terrible
if
idea.
they had a plan
Sorry.
which showed me that we could get them out safely, you're damn right I'd send the
I'll
American
take a real
army in
answer
there
over a
to
non-answer.
get our
Yeah, it conveys more
home and get
confidence.
them
But he gave a
now.
caveat
I'll
if
answer
they
that
had a real
question
threat.
directly.
Really bad.
Thank you,
idea.
But
That would not go well.
It's not a good idea. It's the way he conveyed
Ramaswamy.
it.
Right.
Here, wait.
You have said it was irresponsible for Ambassador Haley to call Hamas's terrorist rampage an attack on America and for her to, quote, rabidly shout, finish them, end quote.
Rabidly?
The Hamas terror attack left dozens of Americans dead and was the deadliest attack on Jews since the Holocaust. Why wouldn't it be a good thing to finish Hamas?
Finish them was purposefully vague in a discussion that included Iran, which is what I objected to. And I think it's as U.S. president, you have to be responsible. What happened to Israel was dead wrong. What Hamas did was medieval. It was subhuman. It was immoral. And we have to call that out for what it is on
Got a
October
strong
7th.
hand gesture.
But to say that that was an attack on America fails a basic test. I mean, Nick, if you can't tell the difference between where Israel is and the U.S. is on a map, I can have my 3-year-old son show you the difference. That is irresponsible because it has major consequences because that doesn't leave room for what actually is
Well, because she's passing
on
the polls.
America.
Sure.
So I believe I have the
funny.
strongest pro-Israel position actually on the stage, even though it's a little bit different than the standard GOP talking points. And it is
They're
this.
laughing.
The founding vision of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, the George Washington figure of Israel, what did he believe? He believed that we don't want, as Israel, to depend on the fleeting sympathies of the West and have our hands tied. I think Israel has an absolute right to defend itself to the fullest, without the U.S., the UN, or the EU, or anybody else second-guessing their decisions, as the Biden administration, guess what, is now starting to do.
Yep,
I think that's a
sanctioning.
more deeply pro-Israel position than anybody else, and it keeps the actual lines of accountability clear because it is a pro-American position. And as leader of the United States of America, just as a father of 2 sons, my sole moral duty is to my family. As your next president, my sole moral duty is to you, the people of this country. That's how I'm going to lead. So I'll tell Bibi, you smoke the terrorists on your southern border, you go ahead and we're rooting for you. We're going to smoke the terrorists on our own southern border. And that's how I'm going to lead this country.
But Americans were killed in that attack. Americans were killed in that attack. And so if you looked at this terrorist attack and the number of Americans, this would be one of the top 10 terrorist attacks in American history. So our own people were killed in that attack. And I think it's absolutely appropriate to point that out and to say that we're in this together and we are going to work with Israel so that these people are brought to justice.
I agree with that.
Ambassador Haley, I'm coming to
Simple.
you.
I agree with that.
Iran is on the threshold of becoming a nuclear state. The Wall Street Journal reported that Iranian military leaders gave the green light for Hamas's attack on Israel. You said in last month's debate that, by contrast to the Biden administration's approach to Iran, you would, quote, punch them once and punch them hard. Were you saying that it's time to bomb Iran?
No, I was not saying it's time to bomb Iran, but I will tell you,
Lindsey
I dealt
Graham
with
was.
Iran every day when I was at the United Nations, and they only respond to strength. What they don't respond to is when you weaken the sanctions like they did on Iran that allowed China to send them billions to fill their proxies. What they don't respond to is when you give $6 billion for 5 hostages. That only makes them want more hostages.
Yeah, I always
what
think
they
she'd wanna
don't
promote that
respond
'cause
to
she was
is
governor
when they
more
do
than being
140
ambassador.
strikes on our men and women in Syria and Iraq, and we do nothing but just some small shots back. You've got to punch them, you've got to punch them hard, and let them know that. That's the only way they're going to respond. So the way you do that is you go after their infrastructure in Syria and Iraq where they're hitting our soldiers. That's what you do, and then that's when they'll back off. The problem is you have to see that all of these are
With
related.
Boeing assets.
If you look at the fact Russia was losing that war with
colonizers,
Ukraine.
soldiers
Putin
that
had
have
hit
in
rock
Syria and
bottom.
Iran,
They had raised
colonizing
the
the
draft
countries.
age to 65. He was getting drones and missiles, drones from Iran, missiles from North Korea. And so what happened? When he hit rock bottom, all of a sudden, his other friend, Iran, Hamas goes and invades Israel and butchers those people on Putin's birthday.
Oh,
There is
please.
no
You
one
know what?
happier right now.
I got
than
a,
Putin
okay,
because
here we
all
go.
of
We got a super chat. It's
Okay.
from Dustin Trussell said, if Chris Christie devoured Nikki Haley live on stage, I would vote for him.
That'd be a good cartoon. Seamus, you listening?
At this point, I have to
Right.
agree because she's just talking so much
There
garbage.
is a reason,
So insufferable.
again, that Taiwanese want to help Ukrainians because they know if Ukraine wins, China won't invade Taiwan. There's a reason the Ukrainians want to help Israelis because they know that if Iran wins, Russia wins. These are all connected. But when
basically like, we have to have war because
We need more war
everybody
here.
is bad all the time.
Policy experience is not the same as foreign policy wisdom. I want everybody at home to
Thank
know
you.
that I was the first person to say we need a reasonable peace deal in Ukraine. Now a lot of the neocons are quietly coming along to that position, with the exceptions of Nikki Haley and Joe Biden, who still support this, what I believe is pointless war in Ukraine.
No
And I think
kidding.
those with foreign policy experience, one thing that Joe Biden and Nikki Haley have in common is that neither of them could even state for you 3 provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send out troops to actually fight for. Look at that. This is what I want people to
She's so
understand.
pissed.
These
She's
people
so
have, I mean, she has no idea what the hell.
Oh, he got it. No, the camera's
Got him,
military
coach.
equipment to go fight. So
No, she can't even name.
telling you that
They're
somebody
called
had a cup of
oblasts,
coffee
by the
stint
way.
at the
Yeah,
UN
thank
and
you.
makes $8 million after, has real foreign policy experience. It takes an outsider to see this through. Look at the blank expression. She doesn't know what she wants to actually fight.
Literally eating her alive.
That was
The donors right there. They're playing about the puppet master.
Hold on.
Chris Christie's moderating. Thank you.
You know, his reasonable peace deal in Ukraine, he made it clear. Give them all the land they've already stolen. Promise Putin you'll never put Ukraine in Russia, and then trust Putin not to have a relationship with China. Let me tell you something. That's no
That's
reasonable.
not my deal. That's not my deal,
Yes,
Chris.
it's exactly what
I'll
you
I'll
said.
describe my
You do
deal
this
to
at
you.
every debate.
I'll tell you exactly
say,
what it is.
Don't
I'll
interrupt me.
tell you
I
what
didn't
it is.
interrupt you. Okay? You say
Tell them
this.
about how you
You
wanna
do
send our
this
kids to
at-
die.
You
Go
do
for it.
this at
Thank
every
you.
debate.
Vivek.
You go out on the stump and you say something. All of us see it on video. We confront you out on the debate stage. You say you didn't say it, and then you back away. And I want to
I'll
say
tell you
one.
exactly
No,
what I said, Chris.
I'm not done yet.
That's
Well,
actually
this is-
Chris
look,
I've seen Vivek
and
announce.
I think Chris misspoke when he said put Ukraine in Russia.
The fourth debate
He
that
meant put
you would
Ukraine
be
in
voting
NATO,
in the
I think.
first 20 minutes as the most obnoxious
Probably, yeah, I think you're
blowhard
right.
in America. So shut up for a little while.
I'm going to respond to that. Chris, your version of
We're going to let you respond to that. We're going to let you respond to that. Let him finish.
Christie eats
I want
Vivek.
to say something else.
You have system
We're
else.
now
You tell
25
him.
minutes into this debate, and he has insulted
Oh.
Nikki Haley's basic intelligence. Not her positions,
But
her
can she
basic
name
intelligence.
any
No,
provinces?
She doesn't know regions. She wouldn't be able to
I'm
find
going
something
to
on the
defend her
map
because I
that
don't
his
think she's
three-year-old
very smart
can find.
either.
That's
Look,
information, not
if you want to
intelligence.
disagree on
Dude,
issues,
this
that's
guy's
fine.
cheap.
And Nikki and I disagree on some issues. But I'll tell you this, I've known her for 12 years, which is longer than he's even started to vote in a Republican primary.
That's not a dig.
Not an argument.
We disagree about
stand
some
the
issues,
audience.
and we
Not an
disagree
argument.
They're all
about who
donors,
should
bro.
be
They're
president of the
Republican
United
donors,
States.
man. They're like
What we don't
the
disagree
scum
on
of the
is
earth,
this
you
is
know?
a smart, accomplished woman, and you should stop insulting
So
her.
I'm going to take this. I'm going to take several times over.
White knighting for Nikki.
We just learned something from Chris Christie.
No longer watching Crisco.
We learned 3 things right there. First of all, Chris Christie also doesn't know what provinces in eastern Ukraine he actually wants us to fight for. Foreign policy experience
Ron is laughing at
was
that.
closing a bridge from New Jersey to New York. So do everybody a favor. Just walk yourself off that stage, enjoy a nice meal, and get the hell out of this race. I think if you're going to actually send your sons and daughters to go
While
die
you
in somebody
weren't
else's
voting-
war,
Hold on. While you
better,
weren't
excuse
voting-
me, Chris, I'm speaking, and I'm not done yet.
I haven't
you had
yet.
your
Yes,
chance,
when you
and
weren't
we're going to be
speaking.
done. So
I don't know. It's
listen
like-
up
it's
to
a little
this.
much.
Is if these people want to send your sons and daughters to go die in Ukraine, they've been arguing for it for a year. $200 billion of our taxpayer money sent over. Neither of them could even name for you the provinces that they actually want to protect. And this is the people who have been touting their so-called foreign policy experience. It is intellectual fraud. These people are lying to you, the same people who told you about weapons and mass destruction in Iraq to justify that invasion, didn't know the first thing about it, yet they sent thousands. I'm gonna respond to that. Chris, your version of look at that. This is what I want people to
She's so
understand.
pissed.
These
She's
people
so
have, I mean, she has no idea what the hell.
Oh, he got it. No, the camera's
Got him,
military
coach.
equipment to go fight. So
No,
legit,
she
Miss
can't
Biden
even
is
name.
telling you that
They're
somebody
called
had a cup of
oblasts,
coffee
by the
stint
way.
at the
Yeah,
UN
thank
and
you.
makes $8 million after, has real foreign policy experience. It takes an outsider to see this through. Look at the blank expression. She doesn't know what she wants to actually fight.
Literally eating her alive.
That was
The donors right there. They're playing about the puppet master.
Chris Christie's moderating. Thank you.
You know, his reasonable peace deal in Ukraine, he made it clear. give them all the land they've already stolen, promise Putin you'll never put Ukraine in Russia, and then trust Putin not to have a relationship with China.
We got a super chat. It's
Okay.
from Dustin Trussell said, if Chris Christie devoured Nikki Haley live on stage, I would vote for him.
That'd be a good cartoon. Seamus, you listening?
At this point, I have to agree because she's just talking so much garbage.
There is a reason,
So insufferable.
again, that Taiwanese want to help Ukrainians because they know if Ukraine wins, China won't invade Taiwan. There's a reason the Ukrainians want to help Israelis because they know that if Iran wins, Russia wins. These are all connected. But what wins all of that is a strong America, not a weak America. And that's what
She's basically like, we have to have war because everybody is bad all the time.
Experience is not the same as foreign policy wisdom. I want everybody at home to know that I was the first person to say we need a reasonable peace deal in Ukraine. Now a lot of the neocons are quietly coming along to that position, with the exceptions of Nikki Haley and Joe Biden, who still support this, what I believe is pointless war in Ukraine.
No
And I think
kidding.
those with foreign policy experience, one thing that Joe Biden and Nikki Haley have in common is that neither of them could even state for you 3 provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send out troops to actually fight for. Look at that. This is what I want people to
She's so
understand.
pissed.
These
She's
people
so
have, I mean, she has no idea what the hell.
Oh, he got him,
military
coach.
equipment to go fight. So
No,
legit,
she
Smith
can't
Biden
even
is
name-
telling you that
they're
somebody
called
had a cup of
oblasts,
coffee
by the way.
stint at the
Yeah,
UN
thank
and
you.
makes $8 million after, has real foreign policy experience. It takes an outsider to see this through. Look at the blank expression. She doesn't know what she wants to actually fight.
Literally eating her alive.
Wow.
that was
The donors right there. They're complaining about the puppet
Okay,
master.
hold on.
Chris
Christie's moderating. Thank you.
You know, his reasonable peace deal in Ukraine, he made it clear. Give them all the land they've already stolen, promise Putin you'll never put Ukraine in Russia, and then trust Putin not to have a relationship with China. Let me tell you something. That's no
That's
reasonable.
not my deal. That's not my deal,
Yes,
Chris.
it's exactly what you
I'll
said.
describe
You
my
do
deal
this
to
at
you.
every debate.
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Don't
I'll
interrupt
tell
me.
you
I
what
didn't
it is.
interrupt you. Okay? You say
them
this.
about how you
You
wanna
do
send our
this.
kids to die.
You
Go
do
for it.
this at
Thank
every
you.
debate.
Vivek.
You go out on the stump and you say something. All of us see it on video. We confront you out on the debate stage. You say you didn't say it, and then you back away. And I want to
I'll
say
tell you
what?
exactly
No,
what I said, Chris.
I'm not done yet.
That's
Well,
actually
this is-
Chris's nice to Vivek.
I think Chris misspoke when he said put Ukraine in Russia.
The fourth debate
He
that
meant put
you would
Ukraine
be
in
voted
NATO,
in the
I think.
first 20 minutes as the most obnoxious
Probably, yeah, I think you're
blowhard
right.
in America. So shut up for a little while.
I'm gonna respond to that.
Chris,
your version of
We're gonna let you respond to that. We're gonna let you respond to that. Let him finish.
Christie eats
I want
Vivek.
to say something else.
You have system
We're
else.
now
You tell
25
him.
minutes into this debate, and he has insulted Nikki Haley's basic intelligence. Not her positions,
But
her
can she
basic
name
intelligence.
any
She
provinces?
doesn't know regions. She wouldn't be able to find
I'm going to
something on
defend
the
her
map
because I
that
don't
his
think she's
3-year-old
very
can
smart
find.
either.
That's
Look,
information, not
if you want to
intelligence.
disagree on issues,
Dude,
that's
this guy's
fine.
cheap.
And Nikki and I disagree on some issues. But I'll tell you this, I've known her for 12 years, which is longer than he's even started to vote in a Republican primary.
That's not a dig.
Not an argument.
We disagree about
stand
some
the
issues,
audience.
and we
Not an
disagree
argument.
They're all
about who
donors,
should
bro.
be
They're
president of the
Republican
United
donors,
States.
man. They're like
What we
the
don't disagree
scum
on
of the
is
earth,
this
you
is
know?
a smart, accomplished woman, and you should stop insulting
So
her.
I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna take several times over.
White knighting for Nikki.
We just learned something from
I'm
Chris Christie.
no longer watching Crisco.
We learned 3 things right there. First of all, Chris Christie also doesn't know what provinces in eastern Ukraine he actually wants us to fight for. Foreign policy experience
Ron is laughing at
was
that.
closing a bridge from New Jersey to New York.
Yeah.
So do everybody a favor, just walk yourself off that stage, enjoy a nice meal,
Yeah.
and get the hell out of this race.
Whoa!
I think if you're going to actually send your sons and daughters to go
While
die
you
in somebody
weren't
else's
voting-
war,
Hold on. While you
better,
weren't
excuse
voting-
me, Chris, I'm speaking, and I'm not done yet.
I haven't
you had
heard
your
the time
chance,
when you
and
weren't
we're going to be
speaking.
done. So
I don't know. It's
listen
a
up to
little
this.
much.
Is if these people want to send your sons and daughters to go die in Ukraine, they've been arguing for it. Foreign policy experience
Ron is laughing at
was
that.
closing a bridge from New Jersey to New York.
Yeah.
So do everybody a favor, just walk yourself off that stage, enjoy a nice meal,
Yeah.
and get the hell out of this race.
Whoa!
I think if you're going to actually send your sons and daughters to go
While
die
you
in somebody
weren't
else's
voting-
war,
Hold on. While
you
you
better,
weren't
excuse me,
voting-
Chris, I'm speaking, and I'm not done yet.
I haven't
you had
heard
your
the
chance,
time when you
and
weren't
we're going to be
speaking.
done. So
I don't know. It's
listen
like-
up
it's
to
a little
this.
much.
Is if these people want to send your sons and daughters to go die in Ukraine, they've been arguing for it for a year. $200 billion of our taxpayer money sent over. Neither of them could even name for you the provinces that they actually want to protect. And this is the people who have been touting their so-called foreign policy experience. It is intellectual fraud. These people are lying to you, the same people who told you about weapons and mass destruction in Iraq to justify that invasion, didn't know the first thing about it, yet they sent thousands of our sons and daughters to go down.
He's already dead.
I
know, dude. Holy shit.
Sorry.
Some of his other points are getting lost.
$7 trillion
now.
of our national debt due to these toxic neocons.
I don't mind what he's saying, but there is a moment where you have to be like, I deliver points down, so I want to keep going.
Neocon.
He's crushing them.
Thank you, Mr.
Dick Cheney
Ramaswamy.
all over again in this
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. 15
Just putting
seconds.
gas on the stage, dude.
Wow.
Name the provinces. Neither of you could even look at this thing about Eastern
You got him with that one, dude.
Think about that.
Let me
It's not Crimea. It's not Crimea. That's not the one they're talking about.
All right, the floor is Christie's.
All right, let me just say this.
Chaos.
You know, this is the kind of thing where he talks about experience. You know, I was the U.S. attorney in New Jersey when the terrorist attacks were launched against the United States in 2001.
That's not what we're talking
I brought
about.
the first two cases in this country against terrorists who tried to attack us again.
I just got to point something
I
out.
know about the threat of terrorism and bullying.
Remember, 9/11 argument doesn't work when you have a large voter base, younger voters, who were not, who were little children or not even alive.
I was 20.
Mouth at Harvard.
I was
That's what
a
was
Marine, an active duty guy, but like I was 20, dude. Like I was a kid.
He was a Democrat.
But even but you remember it. I was 14. But there are actual voters right now who weren't even alive. Born after.
Is insult good people who have committed their lives to public service and not say anything that moves the ball down the field for the United States.
All right, thank you, Governor Christie.
I hate the term public service. Sorry, if you're an elected official, you're not a public
She said
servant.
Crimea, and that's funny because
Crimea's been rushed for a long time.
Dude, that's not what's in contention right now.
Right. And so Vivek, I think he absolutely nailed them with that question. Which provinces do you actually want to defend? Well, they're called oblasts. They're administrative regions, and they're basically just named after their cities. But everyone knows Donetsk and Luhansk. Those are the principal in the Donbass region. And then I guess the argument would be Kharkiv and Kiev, which is where Russian forces attacked through Belarus. Crimea, they want to liberate, not defend. But I don't want to be too pedantic. Nikki Haley. I don't know how she got those answers. Someone rushed to, did she check her phone, look down and be like, quick, give me.
No, I think the problem
you see the look
is
on her face when he asked.
She is waiting for the moderators to be like, and now you speak. And that's not the game Vivek is playing. That's not the game, to a certain extent, DeSantis is playing. Like, he said it. She didn't even realize the camera was on her, so she's staring blankly because she's listening to someone who's standing over there. Maybe she does know the regions, maybe she doesn't, but it was perfectly teed up by Ramaswamy. She was not quick enough to respond. That's really what it was.
I think the fact that she said Crimea shows she doesn't know what she's talking about.
She doesn't.
And it took her 5 minutes to get to it, right? She could have said it immediately. Instead, she was flustered by being called out. Like
Crimea's been for a decade under the control of Russia. And in Sevastopol, the Russians have already been there well before that with their naval base. So maybe you can argue she didn't understand what exactly he meant, and she was interpreting as, but I'm not playing that game. He immediately called her out, and if it were me, I'd be like, look, first of all, I don't actually care all that much about Ukraine. My whole position is more along with Vivek of we should not be sending troops over there and fortifying this. But immediately I was like, wait, I'm like Donetsk and Luhansk, that's the news. I can name those two right now. Now, and then as for the other
You could be president too, Tim.
Yeah, the one thing I'm not sure of is I know those are the names of the regions, but I fact checked. They're basically the names of the cities. So Kharkiv, Kiev, those are also the names of the
Belgorod, Dnipro. I'm reading them off a map right now.
Zaporizhia, etc. Crimea.
Well, the funny thing is, if you think about it, right? So it's like we pull out of Afghanistan in the most horrible way.
Surrender.
Surrender.
My buddy who came with me here, who's downstairs right now, he was up, got no sleep for weeks, trying to get guys out, right? A lot of guys did, right? Trying to get guys out of there. It was a total disaster. And then 6 months later, all the, the military industrial complex, right? They needed new business, so it's like business development. Like, what do you know? Right, 6 months later, we got a new war, more money, all that. I'm not trying to sound too conspiratorial, but it looks that way.
Yeah, when they split up the Soviet Union and they gave all that land to the Ukraine, those oligarchs must have known it was going to cause contention with Russia down the line, not having access to the Black Sea.
Ian, we don't call it the Ukraine; we call it Ukraine.
It is borderland.
Yeah, I know you're absolutely true. I'm no Eastern European Russian expert, but I know. Right, it's like all of a sudden everyone has to say Kyiv now instead of Kiev. Come on.
We spelled Zelensky's name 3 different ways. It's crazy.
Zelensky.
How many Y's? Fewer Y's? Maybe more Y's?
7 Y's.
I think it is worth noting that ultimately Christie was right that it's about Trump more than anything else.
Of course.
And it is interesting to watch the fighting. It's not. I think Vivek is performing well.
Awesome.
There's been interesting moments, but ultimately, the question remains: how will anyone stand up if they were to debate Trump?
They won't.
It shows the two legitimate candidates is DeSantis and Ramaswamy, and then the other two are like war hawks that are just kind of on the trail,
100%.
big money.
Yeah,
100%. That's absolutely it. And honestly, I was saying earlier, is on that stage, Vivek's the guy. He's the guy, absolutely, for normal folks.
I think he has the charisma. I mean, I think there are questions about his policies in some respects, but I think he always has been the most charismatic person in all of these debate performances. Again, he does have the occasional thing. He said something like, I have a longer future than Donald Trump. He has sparred with Donald Trump very indirectly.
Sure.
And again, I wonder what that would look like if they were up against each other.
It's more anecdotal, but he's humble in the sense that he was willing to come in and do this interview when Tim was out of town. So I interviewed, Hannah Claire interviewed him with Seamus Coughlin.
And hold on, it's worse than that. We had a miscommunication here about who was contacting his team to let him know that I was at a doctor's appointment, not going to be in town, and so they found out really late. And Vivek was super cool. He's like, "No, don't worry about it. I get it, man. These things happen."
Indication to me, he will listen to his advisors. That's a huge, important thing for a leader.
Absolutely. But also the fact that he'll go talk anywhere. He'll go obviously this is a huge show.
Here we go. We're back.
Huge show, but it's he goes on all the podcasts. It's great.
On the southern
Nikki
border.
does not.
Polls show immigration and the crisis are among the most pressing issues for Republican voters right now. Both
Just the
issue of
immigration
migrants
crisis.
crossing illegally into our country and the separate issue of fentanyl being smuggled in mostly through legal ports of entry. All year, News Nation has been at the border documenting the crisis. In 2023 alone, Border Patrol encountered a record 2.4
I hear News Nation does a pretty good job.
million migrants.
Yeah.
All 4 of you have talked tough.
Cuomo
The
redemption
question
arc.
now is how realistic is the talk? So, Governor DeSantis, I'd like to start with you. You have pledged to send the military to the southern border on day one of your administration with orders to shoot, quote, stone cold dead anyone illegally entering with a backpack that you believe contains fentanyl. Critics have called this a shoot first, ask questions later policy that would amount to extrajudicial killing. You are a former military lawyer. Why do you think this idea of yours would be legal?
The drug cartels are invading our country, and they are killing our citizens by the tens of thousands every year. We had a situation in Florida. There was an 18-month-old baby that was crawling on the floor of an Airbnb rental. There was fentanyl residue on the carpet, and the baby died. Is this acceptable in this country? I know the elites in D.C., they don't care. They don't care that fentanyl's ravaging your community. They don't care that illegal aliens are ravaging our community and overwhelming our community. The commander-in-chief not only has a right, you have a responsibility to fight back against these people.
And does that mean shooting first?
It means you're gonna categorize them as foreign terrorist organizations, and we will identify just like we would anywhere. When I was in Iraq, the Al-Qaeda wasn't wearing a uniform. You'd see anyone walking down the street, they all had man dresses on. You didn't know if someone had a bomb, an IED attached or not. And so you had to make a judgment based on intelligence, based on positive identification. But we're going to be able to get the intelligence on these cartel people. And here's the thing. If we had a wall across the southern border, which I support, this would not have happened. We need to build a wall across the southern border. I'll get it done, and Mexico is supposed to pay for it. Remember, here's how you do that. I'm going to have fees on remittances from foreign workers when they send the money back to foreign countries. We're going to tax it, and we're going to build the wall with that. So yes, you should have had that, but we don't have it. I'm going to build it, but we have to lean in on this problem. I am not going to sit there and allow mothers to lose more kids because of fentanyl overdose. I am not going to sit there and let sex trafficking go unabated or human trafficking go unabated. There's going to be a new sheriff in town, and these drug cartels better buckle up.
Nothing disagreeable there.
Ambassador Haley, you have pledged to catch and deport all migrants who are here in this country illegally. Then you said in Londonderry, New Hampshire last month that you will not deport those who are working and paying taxes rather than feeding off the system.
She knows,
Which is it?
So first of all, what I said is all of the 7 or 8 million illegals that have come under Biden's watch absolutely have to go back. We have to stop the incentive of what's bringing them over here in the first place. Biden just gave temporary protective status to 500,000 Venezuelans. That's 500,000 Social Security cards. That's 500,000 driver's licenses. And I know from my time at the United Nations, the first thing they do is pick up the phone and said, we came over, come on over. And that's what sends more. You have to go and deport these people so they know it can't happen again. For those that have been here longer than that, we've got to start seeing who is it, how long have they been here, have they been vetted, have they paid taxes, have they been working, and figure out who else is out there. But what I know is my parents came here legally. They put in the time, they put in the price. They are offended by those that are coming illegally. We can't let them skip the line. But when you talk about fentanyl like you did before, let's look at something else. Yes, I think we should send special operations over and take out the cartels. I think we should do a remain in Mexico policy so they never step foot in U.S. soil in the first place. But look at where fentanyl came from. Let's go to the heart of the matter. It came from China. That's why we need to end all normal trade relations with China until they stop murdering Americans with fentanyl. I promise you, they need our economy. They will immediately stop that. But this is where Trump went wrong. Trump was good on trade, but that's all he was with China. Because here he allowed fentanyl to continue to come over. He continued to allow them to he would give them technology that would build up their military and hurt us. He allowed the Chinese infiltration for them to buy up farmland, to put money in our universities, and to continue to do things that were harmful for America. We now have a spy base in Cuba and police stations, and Trump didn't do anything about it.
Her China, though, I mean, listen, this is rich, because when she was governor of South Carolina, she was the #1 ranked governor of bringing the CCP into her state. She wrote a love letter to the Chinese ambassador saying how great a friend China is. You can look at it. We put it on our website, rondesantis.com. There's also a video of her as governor standing in front of a Chinese flag with a Chinese business saying that she now works for them, talking about this Chinese company. So she's been very weak on China. Now, here's the problem. The rhetoric is different, but her donors, these Wall Street liberal donors, they make money in China. They are not going to let her be tough on China, and she will cave to the donors. She will not stand up for you.
15 seconds.
Not wrong.
I think Ron's actually doing really well.
Yeah, he is.
First of all, he's mad because those Wall Street donors used to support him, and now they support me. The second thing is, he almost said a Chinese company, UGAS, that he just did a rally there last year. They have given you $340,000 in campaign donations between them and their employees.
He went to lead,
they
and then he stopped himself.
tied to the Communist Party. Jinko Solar is another one. They went and expanded. You gave $2 million in subsidies.
I banned China from buying land in the state of Florida.
The Department of Homeland
ejected the Confucius Institute. Nikki Haley brought Confucius Institutes to the universities in South Carolina.
That is not true.
I ejected them. So I have a record of standing up and do what's right. And here's the thing.
You have a record of lying.
She's trying to say things like that. Even the liberal media groups that usually, if I say the sky is blue, they'll fact check me and say that's wrong. They looked at her charges. They said it was totally false, that they could not find one instance of me recruiting a Chinese business.
So my wife got me this weird new kitchen knife as a Christmas gift. God, I love her. At first,
coming to Florida, you know why? Because we never recruited any Chinese businesses in the state of Florida.
Thank you. Mr. Ramaswamy, over the past year, fentanyl has killed more than 75,000 Americans, 1,000 of them right here in Alabama. You have vowed to use the military to, quote, annihilate drug labs inside Mexico, something the president of Mexico said would be a hostile act. But fentanyl can easily be made anywhere, and labs that are shut down can easily and quickly be replaced. Are your tough enforcement policies offering false hope to a country racked by addiction?
To the contrary, I don't think it's going to have to come to that if we deal with the actual demand side problem that we also have in this country.
Mike.
I mean, the easy part is talking about how we're going to use our military to secure the border. I will, and I believe that everybody else wants to do the same thing. But the harder part is dealing with the crisis of purpose and meaning, the mental health epidemic raging across this country like wildfire. And there's a reason why after the opioid crisis, you see fentanyl. And even after we get fentanyl, and we are going to be sure to make sure we do it, this one is worse for many reasons. They're illegally lacing it into pharmaceuticals, so it's more dangerous. But we're deluding ourselves. The real false promise here is thinking that we're going to have dealt with that underlying mental health epidemic in this country by just dealing with the demand side of it. But I want to get back to this issue of the root cause, because a lot of these are coming from labs in Wuhan, China, of all places. Drug materials that are going to the Mexican drug cartels that they're pumping across that southern border like a modern opium war. I think it is going to take a U.S. president that's going to have a very different conversation with Xi Jinping than what Joe Biden just had
I'm glad he's
in California.
This.
I will tell Xi
Biden was
Jinping, you will
basically
not
like,
only not
"Please
buy land
stop."
in this
And they were
country
like, "We'll think
or
about it."
donate to
Can you not?
universities in this country.
It was a really
U.S.
good
businesses
conversation.
won't expand into the Chinese market until they're playing by the same set of rules. And the same country that's putting fentanyl into illegal pharmaceuticals in Mexico, it's no coincidence, is the exact same country that also unleashed hell on the world with the COVID-19 pandemic. We also have to hold them accountable with every financial lever that we have available. That is what it actually means to stand with a spine. And you mark my words, if we're willing to stand with the spine, China will absolutely have to fold because they're in a tougher spot than we are. And then we're back to playing by the same set of rules.
Thank you, Mr.
That's the answer.
Ramaswamy. Thank you. Let's talk about the economy. Ambassador Haley.
Chris Christie's just not
Homeownership
here.
has always been part of the American dream, but
He's
it's
gonna whine about it
increasingly
later,
out
don't
of
worry.
reach for younger Americans. This year, mortgage rates reached 30-year highs. Home prices have risen $190,000 over the past decade. Is this the free market at work?
No.
Or should the federal government do something to make homes more affordable?
What?
Well, first of all,
Same
you're exactly
statement.
right. My daughter just got married, and I saw how hard it was for her and her husband to buy a home. Right now, the average homeowner in America is 49 years old. You've got young people everywhere. That used to be the American dream, and now it's out of reach. But you look at what happened. You first of all look at what the Fed did. The Fed did a terrible job when they allowed all of that money to go through. You saw the Treasury bond rates go up. That affected mortgage rates, that affected automobile rates, that affected insurance rates. And so now we have a high interest rate. You've got a supply issue. Ask any builder. The supply issues have continued to be there. That's caused the rate to go up. And then you've got insurances that have gone up. And so what you have is a lot of younger people who, one, can't afford a home, but two, the banks aren't lending them any money. They've made the regulations so hard that they don't want to give loans on mortgages anymore. So what we have to do is we have to open it up. We have to, one, grow our economy so that people have more money in their pockets. We've got to look at the supply chain and make sure that we are funneling that so that builders don't have to sit there and go overseas to find things. And then we need to make sure that we really stop paying down this debt, make sure that we stop the borrowing, stop the spending. I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels, because our kids are not going to forgive us for all the spending that happened. And as much as everybody wants to talk about how Donald Trump had a good economy, $9 trillion in debt, he did just in 4 years. And we're all paying the price of that, including those mortgage prices.
Yeah, but a lot of that was
We're going to come back to
Exactly, that's what I mean.
President
There's
Trump,
extraordinary
I promise.
circumstances.
A lot of spending. He did
Governor
spend
DeSantis, the latest News
literally
Nation
extraordinary
Decision Desk
circumstances.
poll found that inflation tops the worries of American voters. 61% say they're very
Can they just
concerned,
skip
and the working
Christie?
class is hardest
Christie's
hit.
just not here.
They're giving DeSantis
Economists
a
say
second
this
question
so
rather
bad.
than
by a
Christie.
glut of federal spending.
He's like moderating.
The Biden administration has
though.
added $6 trillion to
He
the
should have
national
dropped out
debt
a
so
long time
far.
ago.
But President
He should
Trump
just literally
wasn't exactly
moderate
a
it.
penny pincher.
Why not?
His administration
made, though,
added $7.8 trillion. Do Republicans, including President Trump, share the blame for inflation? And what concrete steps would a President
They do.
DeSantis take to help Americans make ends meet?
But it's not shared
Borrowing,
equally.
printing, and spending of money was both parties in Washington, D.C. That's just a fact. these Republicans in Washington have spent. It's driven your prices higher, and it's driven your interest rates to the point where you can't afford. I met a young fella in Iowa. He had graduated college a couple years ago, and he's like, Governor, I don't have a chance. I'm gainfully employed. He's like, I have no chance to afford a home and start a family. That is taking the American dream away from people. So we're going to get the inflation down. We're going to get the interest rates down. We are going to reduce spending, and I will be willing to veto, and I vetoed a lot as governor of Florida, and we'll do that. We're also going to open up all of our domestic energy for production. Lower your gas prices, lower the price of fuel. That's going to help the economy. It also help jobs, and we'll do it. But, you know, another thing that's burdening young people are these student loans. Now, I don't support having a truck driver having to pay a student loan for someone that got a degree in gender studies. That is wrong. We should not have taxpayers do that. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to get to the root cause of the problem. These student loans are going to be backed by the universities because they need to have an incentive to produce gainful employment.
Seize the endowments.
They should not be indulging in ideological studies. They should be focusing on things that work. And we're going to take some of this money and we're going to move it to actual vocational training. In Florida, we doubled apprenticeships. We have more truck drivers. These are in-demand skills. Don't let anybody tell you that the only way you can be successful is through a 4-year brick and ivy degree. That's one way you can be. It's not the only way, and we're going to fix that problem in the United States of America.
Christy, gonna get a question? Oh, no,
you
no questions for
praised
Christy.
Cryptocurrency like Bitcoin as an opt-out from our, quote, broken financial architecture, and you oppose efforts to regulate it.
Wait for Christy to break in and be like, hey guys, I'm still here.
No, he's just going to leave suddenly.
Yeah, it'd be great. It cuts back and he's gone.
Money for terrorists, including
remind us of the time.
You say your cryptocurrency plan will, quote, ensure economic freedom for Americans, end quote. Won't it also ensure economic freedom for fraudsters, criminals, and terrorists?
I did not.
It won't. Good question.
Fraudsters, criminals, and terrorists have been defrauding people for a long time. Our regulations need to catch up with the current moment. The fact that SBF was able to do what he did at FTX shows that whatever they have as the current framework isn't working. And I think it is nothing short of embarrassing that Gary Gensler, the current leader of the SEC, in front of Congress, could not even say whether Ethereum counted as a regulated security or not. And so I think that this is just another example of the administrative state gone too far. Here's the dirty little secret in American politics today. The people who we elect to run the government are not the ones who are even actually...
What are they not doing? Tell me.
That are writing regulations that Congress never gave them the authority to write. And the good news is a U.S. president can absolutely fix that. That takes a U.S. president with a spine. So what I've said is in my administration, by the end of year 1, we will have a 75% reduction in the number of federal bureaucrats. We will shut down government agencies that should not exist. We will rescind any regulation that fails the test of West Virginia versus EPA, which is the most important Supreme Court case of our lifetime, that said if Congress didn't delegate that to an administrative agency, then it's unconstitutional. Woo! These are seismic changes.
I don't know much about that. I'd like to learn more about that.
These are big changes that the next president can deliver without asking Congress for permission or for forgiveness. And I want people to understand that distinction, because people have been sold myths by politicians for a long time, saying, I'm going to work with Congress to do this or that. Much of what you've heard on the stage from the other politicians fit that description. They need Congress. The things that I'm promising you, this is what the leader of the executive branch gets to do under Article 2 of the Constitution.
Thank you, sir.
Cut down the bureaucracy. That's how we grow our economy.
Cutting the federal government like that is tumultuous and difficult, but
90% reduction at the Fed.
You're out of time.
It'll be painful.
They're going to
target him.
So
It'll be painful,
one of the dangers that we're going to face, Biden wants, is a central bank digital currency. They want to get rid of cash, crypto. They want to force you to do that. They'll take away your privacy. They will absolutely regulate your purchases. On day 1 as president, we take the idea of central bank digital currency and we throw it in the trash can. It'll be dead on arrival.
I don't know if anybody is live timing how much time they're getting.
We'll have a whole second hour to get to. It's exciting. And when we come back, we've got a big subject. Huge.
Yeah, Ron's best debate so far, to be honest. He's a little nerdy. He's a little nerdy.
That's fine.
And what I mean by that is a lot good facts. Yeah. But not being presented really well. Like I'm talking like high school level. Like he's not. It's the charisma thing. But I think he's doing pretty well. And Vivek, of course, is always doing really.
You
were
right
well,
that he was a little too nerdy when he started talking about Ethereum, and that Gary Gensler couldn't identify if it was a security or not.
Sure.
And basically means is it going to be used as cash or is it going to be used as a commodity?
Right.
Even the word commodity is a little nerdy for your average
Let's we'll grab some super chats during the commercials. We got MF Damien says Ron makes some decent points, but sounds too rehearsed and inauthentic when he speaks. King Vivek all day. Yeah,
concur.
That like I feel like Ron's actually doing really well.
Yeah,
but he's got the head bob going on.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to smile once in a while, but like a
One
real
time he
smile,
did.
not the whole like.
The Gavin Newsom
Right,
smiling
right.
is
You know
like
what I
too
mean?
weird. I don't know.
Yeah, he got called out because his smiles are inauthentic.
He's like, I won't
It's
let
just
you
not
down.
him.
Yeah.
No,
he
it's
looks
weird.
sad when he smiles.
And honestly, you made a great point there when you're talking about like the Gavin Newsom, bring that up. Like, look, when everyone says, "Oh, Gavin Newsom," like I think Terry was here last night to say like, "Oh, I'm not that worried about Gavin." Like, I'm worried as hell about Gavin Newsom.
This is a good one right here from Nick Williams.
Yeah, please.
Vivek missed an opportunity to highlight that Haley isn't stupid. She just doesn't care about Ukraine. The only thing Nikki is worried about is Lockheed and Raytheon's stock price.
Yeah, he didn't insult her intelligence like Chris Christie said. He pointed out that she didn't have the information, that she was ignorant.
Yeah, but tomorrow
and
the headline's going to
stupid.
be Chris Christie defends Nikki Haley from Vivek, who becomes too aggressive on stage.
Attacks women,
Right,
hates
right,
women.
right. And so in some ways, like the fact that he left it ambiguous and didn't correct it at all. I mean, he was on a roll. He had good energy in that moment,
Sure.
so there's a reason to.
I-
but it will give Chris Christie this moment, and it also makes Nikki Haley look like a submissive woman, which will turn feminists off from her.
If there's any, Vivek staff members listening, I hope they hear this. Technically, I hope they don't, but just, you got to say, Nikki Hillary over here. I'm sorry, I mean Haley.
No, he did have that Hillary Clinton comparison
No, but call her
before.
Nikki Hillary.
Yeah, that's
Excuse me.
true.
Yeah, and like fake,
They're like
correct himself.
texting him right now. Like,
Yeah.
Nikki Hillary.
No, but when he compared her to Hillary Clinton, like that's a very serious indictment, right?
Yeah.
Women in
Yeah.
politics, either side, being compared to Hillary Clinton is not a good thing, right? Because if you're a Democrat, she failed repeatedly, and if you're a Republican, it's Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, but look, Hillary Clinton could be running on the give you $1 million party and people would still hate her.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat policy wise. She is an awful human that people despise.
America's ex-wife.
When when Nikki Haley came out and said that she wanted to track people that use social media and get their identification and make everyone that I think indicates low intelligence. Like that I can argue is a low intelligence claim because she hasn't thought ahead into what kind of corruption
or at the very least authoritarian.
I
At
feel
the
like
very
it's
least
authoritarian
authoritarianism.
more than anything else.
Let me grab this one from That One Gamer. He says, I was born in November 2002, and people my age were signing up to fight in this war that has been around longer than myself. We're not doing that again. Politicians can suck it.
Thank you.
Dude,
I hear you, brother.
21 years old. Okay, you're 20. You've voted in several election cycles already, and you were born after. But let's even talk about someone born in 1997. Okay,
Right.
You're 4 or 5 years old. You don't remember any of this. So when Chris Christie's like, I was the Attorney General during 9/11, it's like, yo,
That doesn't mean anything.
it might mean something to people who are in their like mid 30s and up, but
maybe,
to everybody
maybe.
else, they're like, I don't care.
I think I was in kindergarten, and I grew up in Connecticut, right? So I had friends whose parents commuted into New York. Like I remember not going to school that day the towers fell, but like.
Right.
All of it is stuff that I grew up hearing, but it's not. It was news I had to
people
learn
who
as I
have
got older.
teenagers, right, who are like coming up military age. It's like, and like
Do you
for
want
example,
them to go? Yeah.
right, like my little brother he's still active duty. He's still out there. I got a lot of friends. I got a friend here's active duty, and I know a lot of folks who are like younger than me. Like, and it's like I don't really want you to
The
go there.
fall of
Please.
the Berlin Wall. That's how I would think about it. 89.
Yeah,
I was 3.
I saw it on TV.
I was 3 years old. Actually, I was about to turn 4, and I only have vague memories of references to it.
Right.
I'm 3. I don't remember anything at all other than
it's not relevant.
People mentioning it as I was a kid that it happened.
Sure.
Dudes
and I'm
taking
like, huh.
sledgehammers.
Can
to
I
the
say
wall.
something as well? When what Vivek said, he talks about like cutting like 75% of like the federal government. Is look, it's something that like a lot of people, especially people who live in the Beltway, it's like bonkers. Like, oh my God, you can't do it, right? It's terrible. It's crazy. Oh, here we go. But I gotta say, it'll be painful. It'll be tumultuous. But if it happens, we'll get through it.
So for most of you, on the front runner in this
Second
race,
hour.
Donald Trump.
They got to talk about GDP if they're going to.
2 hours of this crap.
Holy
We'd
crap.
like to ask you a couple questions about him now.
I think she's wearing a great
Ambassador
color.
Haley.
I just have to say
She
it.
looks great.
Former President
She
Trump
looks
recently
fantastic.
promised if he's reelected to bring back and expand
She
his
shouldn't have
program
worn white. She
restricting
looks too washed
immigration
out.
from Muslim countries.
Did Trump
Here he is in
actually say
Iowa
Muslim countries?
on October 16th.
Okay, let's listen.
No longer will we allow dangerous lunatics, haters, bigots, and maniacs to get residence.
A brave and beautiful trans woman has taken gold in the female competition, winning in every single event by wide margins.
That's right, Drake. And WIAW's own Gwen Wild is on the scene with more from this unprecedented
in our country. We're not going to let them stay here. If you empathize with radical Islamic terrorists and extremists, you're disqualified. You're just disqualified.
That seems reasonable.
He didn't say Muslims.
Dr. Haley, do you support President Trump's plan for ideological screening?
Oh, come on.
I don't think that you have a straight-up Muslim ban as much as you look at the countries that have terrorist activity that want to
Oh, come on.
You do. You
They're going to
can't
email
ban
Megyn
those
Kelly and be
people
like,
from
what
those
was that?
countries. That's the way we should look at it, is which countries are a threat to us. You look at what came across the southern border. What worries me the most are those that came from Iran, from Yemen, from Lebanon. Those areas where they say death to America. That's where you want to be.
Yes,
every chance.
let me just. Okay, sure. Trump should ban terrorists. If someone is coming to this country and we find out that they support terrorist and radical ideologies, you're disqualified.
It's not a big ask. It's not crazy.
And the false framing by Megyn Kelly and now Nikki Haley is reprehensible.
We're doing about it. And the biggest threat we have right now is communist China. But you have to also look at what Iran and Russia are doing as well. And we need to be paying attention to that. That's why we have to focus on things like cyber, on space, on artificial intelligence, and not just the regular things that we've always focused on.
It's not just terrorism, though. That's important. But look what's happened in Europe. You have more anti-Semitism in Germany than at any time since Adolf Hitler. Why? Because they imported mass numbers of people who reject their culture. Europe is committing suicide with the mass migration, and it's illegal and legal. Nikki Haley said the other day there should be no limits on legal immigration, and that corporate CEOs should set the policy on that. There needs to be limits on immigration, and we should not be importing people from cultures that are hostile. So, for example, I said with the Gaza, you had some of the squad wanted to import 300,000 people from the Gaza Strip. I said, no, we're not taking anyone from Gaza because of the anti-Semitism and because they reject American culture. So we've got to get smart about this. We cannot let the United States be like Europe.
So there's an overhanging fruit here, if I may just hit this point, because it relates to what they just said. There are things that the government can do right now that nobody's talking about among professional politicians in this race.
I don't think he's gotten any questions. I think he's gotten like one or two questions for an hour.
Here's the answer.
He should elbow his way in if he were serious.
There's 287G in the law. That is a provision that already allows ICE agents to deputize or allow local law enforcement to enforce those ICE warrants. And it shocks me that nobody in the Republican Party is talking about it, because there are 1 million then officials, law enforcement officials in this country. And against that backdrop, we absolutely have the ability to deport anybody who's in this country illegally.
Thank you,
we
Mr.
Need to talk about it.
Would Biden's border control allow that?
I actually did that as governor of South Carolina.
Governor
Christie talks about the debate.
Here
we go.
He would be a dictator if he wins the second term in office. Donald Trump quipped, no, quote, except for day one, promising to seal the southern border. He has also pledged to begin the largest deportation operation in American history, saying that migrants are, quote, poisoning the blood of our country.
No, illegal immigrants are.
He has pledged to round up and expel an estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. What do you make of that plan?
I think it's completely predictable. I mean, look, he's made it very clear. There's no mystery to what he wants to do. He started off his campaign by saying, I am your retribution. 8 years ago, he said, I am your voice.
I think he doesn't get that Americans like Trump.
Angry
He hasn't understood the poll margin.
Who now wants to be back as president.
He's winning the primary.
Exact retribution on anyone who has disagreed with him. Anyone.
Chris Christie's a Democrat. He's on stage being like, I represent non-Republicans.
Policies that he's talking about are about.
Take a look at what Will Chamberlain just tweeted a minute ago.
Something good.
At the first debate, my three colleagues on this stage, when asked if he would be convicted of federal felonies, would they still support him, raise their hand, looked into the camera, and let everybody know that they would still support him even if convicted of federal felonies. Federal felonies,
With
by
the
the way.
majority of
Federal
Americans
felonies,
also
which
want.
involve our election process.
Everyone disagrees. Nikki Haley
Which
sucks.
involve the most sensitive of our governmental secrets. Federal felonies where he instructed others to commit crimes. Folks who are now agreeing to go to jail because of what they did in his name. So do I think he was kidding when he said he was a dictator? All you have to do is look at the history. And that's why failing to speak out against him making excuses for him, pretending that somehow he's a victim, empowers him. You want to know why those poll numbers are where they are? Because folks like these three guys on the stage make it seem like his conduct is acceptable. Let me make it clear.
Does he not get that the majority of Republican voters like Trump?
What's he trying to make clear?
His conduct is unacceptable. He's
so
unfit. And be careful of what you're going to get. If you ever got another Donald Trump term, he's letting you know, I am your retribution.
That's a good thing.
Elizabeth,
Thank you.
He will only be his own retribution. He doesn't care for the American people.
I don't care either.
Okay, a Monmouth poll has it at 58%.
Governor DeSantis.
And then after him is DeSantis at 18%.
Thank you. Governor DeSantis. Donald Trump would be older on day one of his second presidency than Joe Biden was on day one of his first.
Wow. Joe Biden
you
would
have
be
said
100.
Trump is not the same man he was when he ran in 2016. Your campaign is running ads showing Trump confused. And you have said he has, quote, lost the zip on his fastball. You seem to be saying Donald Trump is no longer mentally fit to be president. Is that what you think?
Look, he is showing, Father Time is undefeated. The idea that we're going to put someone up there that's almost 80 and there's going to be no effects from that, we all know that that's not true. And so we have an opportunity to do a next generation of leaders and really be able to move this country forward. We also need a president that can serve 2 terms. I don't think Donald Trump, I think he's going to have I don't think he'd be able to get elected. The Democrats want him to be the nominee. We see that. They are going to turn the screws the minute, if he got the nomination,
but do you think he's mentally fit to be president?
I think we need to have somebody younger. I think when you get up to 80, I don't think it's a job for that. But let me just respond to some of the things there. Look,
well, then it would be
the media is making a big deal about what he said about some of these comments. I would just remind people, that is not how he governed. He didn't even fire Dr. Fauci. He didn't fire Christopher Wray. He didn't clean up the swamp. He said he was going to drain it. He did not drain it. He said he was going to build a wall and have Mexico pay for it. We don't have the wall. He did say in 2016 he'd have the largest deportation program in history. He deported less than Barack Obama did when Barack Obama was president. So some of these policies he ran on in 16, I was cheering him on then, but he didn't deliver it. Here's what I can promise people. 100% of the things I promised as governor, I delivered on those promises. I beat the left time and time again, and that's what I'll do for you as president. We got to start winning again as a party. Yes, win the election, but we've got to start getting these issues. I will go in and wreak havoc on this bureaucracy. You will see people fired, and we are going to bring a reckoning for how this government handled COVID-19.
I'm bringing a reckoning.
Here's Vivek.
Chris, you had your chance to wax eloquent on Donald Trump. You've been doing it all this whole race.
Why doesn't he just answer the question? The question was very direct. Is he fit to be president or isn't he?
So
the rest of the speech is interesting, but
Chris is a
non-responsive.
Democrat up there to destroy the other candidates.
He's ruining the debate itself by talking about the debate.
He's just auditioning to moderate the next debate.
No, they would.
No, they wouldn't,
They would
Chris.
strike the answer because you're not answering it. Is he fit?
You have your thing.
Is he
You
fit
have
or
your
isn't he?
thing.
No, I don't have my thing.
We don't.
He's the thing. Is he fit
We
or
do not want
isn't
to
he?
do someone
You're talking about him being 80 years old.
It doesn't mean that somebody couldn't get elected. That's up to the people that
They zoomed in on Ron's face. Did you see that? It was intensifying.
We have an opportunity to do somebody who the party line of their life. You don't have to worry about.
Thank you for lowering the volume.
The party
Appreciate
likes
that.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump is winning, and Chris Christie is attacking Donald Trump on stage.
Yeah.
Where Ron DeSantis is even trying to avoid going too heavy.
On a test, but I know this.
He wants to be
we
Attorney
have an
General.
opportunity to nominate someone and elect someone for 2 terms who's going to be spitting nails on day one and for 8 years delivering
Chris Christie is running for a cabinet position under a Democrat.
Who's almost 80 years old.
He's afraid to answer.
No, I'm not.
You have to either you're afraid or you're not listening.
No,
all you got to say is like,
shut up.
Is he fit?
Nobody can hear this.
Vendetta against Trump. That was a good one.
You finish.
Girls.
All right, look.
Ladies, please.
I'm a simple guy. Okay?
I'd be like, hey,
I hear the
Lordo.
question, and I answer.
Calm down.
Is he
I'd be
fit
nasty
or
in
isn't
that
he?
situation.
I'll concede you're fit, Ron. You're a new generation. You're 44 years old. I wish I was still 44 years old. Okay?
45.
So, well, congratulations. I'd still take 45. Is he fit or isn't he? And this is the problem with my 3 colleagues. They're afraid to offend.
Divorcing
And let me tell you something. If you're afraid to offend Donald Trump, then what are you going to do when you sit across from President Xi, you sit across from the Ayatollah, you sit across from Putin? You have to be willing to offend with the truth.
Okay.
And answer the question. Fit or unfit?
I promised Ron DeSantis a minute and not a full minute.
I've got
a second.
It's not about
and then we're moving
It's
on.
about pointing out, do you want to elect somebody who will be older than Biden was when he went in 2021?
Just a yes.
I don't think he's as bad as Biden was at all, but I do think that over a 4-year period, it is not a job for somebody that's pushing 80. We need somebody that's younger. We need somebody that's going to be able to go in there.
Donald Trump is fit to be president. I kind of think I can run 2 terms. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Right.
That's all you can say, Ron.
Other colleagues on this debate stage is all 3 of them have been licking Donald Trump's boots for years for money and endorsements. Ron DeSantis, you've been a great governor, but you would have never been one without actually paying
Yeah, but I don't think that's the point he's making.
And you attacked him in your book.
He's talking about the hypocrisy.
Same thing with Chris Christie as a lobbyist, begging them for COVID money for his special interests in New Jersey, prepping him for the debates last time around. These people are now Monday morning quarterbacking some decision he made. I think the real enemy is not Donald Trump. It's not even Joe Biden. It is the deep state that at least Donald Trump attempted to take on. And if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. Why am I the only person on the stage, at least, who can say that January 6th now does look like it was an inside job?
Whoa! Change the subject. Here we go.
20 years about Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11. That the Great Replacement theory is not some grand right-wing conspiracy theory, but a basic statement of the Democratic Party's platform. That the 2020 election was indeed stolen by big tech. That the 2016 election, the one that Trump won for sure, was also one that was stolen from him by the national security establishment that actually put up the Trump-Russia collusion.
Oh, now they want to cut him off.
There's a reason why I'm the only person on the stage who can say these things. That's what it's going to take, not people who were licking his boots one time and now Monday morning quarterbacking and criticizing
but he also sucks up to the Trump voters.
That's not his point, though. He's pointing out they were sucking it.
He still
No. They're kissing his boots, but now turning on him, trying to steal, and Vivek's standing out of it.
Vivek's going to turn against him, too.
The surgeries done on minors involve cutting off body parts at a time when these kids cannot even legally smoke a cigarette. Kids who go from puberty blockers to cross-sex hormones are at a much greater likelihood of winding up sterile. How is it that you think a parent should be able to okay these surgeries, never mind the sterilization of a child? And aren't you way too out of step on this issue to be the Republican nominee?
No, I'm not. Because Republicans believe in less government, not more. In less involvement with government, not more in government involvement in people's lives. And you know what, Megan? I trust parents.
Oh,
no, dude, bro, no.
We should empower parents in education. We should empower parents to make more decisions about where their kids go to school. I agree. We should empower parents to be teaching the values that they believe in their homes without the government telling them what those values should be. And yet, we want to take other parental rights away. I'm sorry. As a father of 4, I believe there is no one who loves my children more than me.
And if they want to cut his penis off.
There's no one who loves my children more than my wife. There's no one who cares more about their success and health in life than we do. Not some government bureaucrat, not some... You look at these jokers down in Congress. It takes them 3 weeks to pick a speaker, and up until 2 days ago, they couldn't promote somebody in the military in the United States Senate who earned their new rank. And we're going to put my children's health and my decisions in their hands? For them to make those decisions? For Joe Biden to make those decisions?
Bro, they're just saying don't give kids sex changes. They're not saying anything else.
Let me just say this.
Yeah, that's like,
this is not something I favor. I think it's a
He's got a filibuster so he can get FaceTime on camera.
But that's not the way to do it. I get you.
Parent, Megan. And I get to make the decisions about my children, not anybody else. And every parent out there who's watching tonight, you start to turn over just a little bit of this authority, the authority they're going to take from you next, you're not going to like.
You think he beats his kids?
Parents.
I don't want the government stepping in when I got my belt out.
No, he's got a sack of sweet Valencia oranges.
You guys are going to get to weigh in.
Yeah, no bruises.
Here's my follow-up question.
My kid wants his hand cut off. He thinks he should be an amputee.
When you were governor in 2017, you signed a law that required new guidelines for schools dealing with transgender students. Those guidelines required schools to accept a child's preferred gender identity even if the minor's parents objected.
Whoa!
And it said that there is no duty for schools to notify parents
Megyn Kelly.
if their son or daughter changes their gender identity, allowing this serious issue to remain a secret between the school and a child.
It is true.
How is any of that pro-parental rights?
Oh, Megyn Kelly.
That's simply...
Absolutely
That's simply not true. That's simply not true. That law was put into effect in 2018 and regulated in 2018 after I was out of office, Megyn. No, we did not, Megyn. We did not issue those guidelines, and you're wrong about that. Simply wrong. I have stood up each and every time.
So I think if this is one issue that's disqualifying, it's this one.
I stood up every single time for parents to be able to make the decisions for their minor children.
But parents...
Every single time, parents should make those decisions. And by the way, you know what? Every once in a while, parents are going to make decisions.
Fact check, Politico, 2017, Chris Christie signs bill to extend protections for trans students.
Away from parents.
He is lying.
You don't know that slippery slope, what rights are going to be taken away next, and what's going to be focused on.
As a parent, you do not have the right to abuse your kids. This is cutting off their genitals. This is mutilating these minors. These are irreversible procedures, and this is something that other countries in Europe, like Sweden,
how is this a controversial position?
They saw it did incalculable damage. They've shut it down.
But it is important to point out that
legislation in
Christie was
Florida banning the mutilation of minors because it is wrong. We cannot allow this to happen in this country. And I know Chris disagrees with me, and I think he has an honest position. Nikki disagrees with me. She opposes the bill that we did to ban that. She said the law shouldn't get involved with it. You said the law shouldn't get involved with it.
So
she also, though, I think, and this flows from what she did as governor of South Carolina, you know, they had a bill to try to say that men should go into girls' bathrooms. And she killed that bill, and she bragged that she killed that bill. Even to this day, she bragged that. I don't think men should be going into little girls' bathrooms. I think it's wrong, and I think we have every right to protect them from that.
I am going to come to you. I promise to have seconds. Go quickly.
I think the North Star here is transgenderism is a mental health disorder. We don't let you smoke a cigarette by the age of 18. We don't let you have an addictive drink of alcohol by the age of 21. And I just challenge Ron DeSantis to go one step further and support what I think is clearly within the authority to do, using federal funds just like Reagan did in '84 for the Highway Act that said the minimum drinking age needs to be 21. We can do the same thing when it comes to banning genital mutilation or chemical castration. I know Ron's been unclear about that on the federal level. I'm crystal clear. That's where I stand.
Got it.
That's a mental health disorder. That's where we need to be at.
Go ahead.
It is literally a disorder. It's in the DSM-5.
Ron has continued to lie because he's losing.
No, it's not a lie.
You are lying.
You said it on tape.
So first of all, I will say that when I was governor, 10 years ago, when the bathroom situation came up, we had maybe a handful of kids that were dealing with an issue. And I said, we don't need to bring government into this, but boys go into boys' bathrooms, girls go into girls' bathrooms, and if anyone else has an issue, they use a private bathroom. Now, 10 years later, we see that this issue has exploded. And this shows how hypocritical Ron continues to be. When he was running for governor and they asked him about that, he said he didn't think bathroom bills were a good use of his time. You can go look that up.
I signed a bathroom bill in Florida. So
I don't believe her. Ron's a culture warrior. It's the only thing he's got. These are his issues.
The idea that you would say that I was against that.
You didn't. You killed it. I signed it. I stood up for little girls. You didn't do it. And there was this going on. I was actually just in South Carolina. Some of the legislators told me at the time there were boys going into the girls. That's the whole reason why they did it. And so they say when she does that explanation that that doesn't hold water. And this is the upstate of South Carolina.
Ron,
I signed the bill. I protected the girls.
Do you know South Carolinians?
She did not do it.
Do you know South Carolinians? No. You are not going going to talk about my state like that because I will tell you
State
for a
your
fact,
state, lady.
South Carolinians never allowed that to happen, and we did not have that issue at the time. What I have always said is boys going to a boys' bathroom, girls going to a girls' bathroom. But hold on one second. I also say that biological boys shouldn't be playing in girls' sports, and I will do everything I can to stop that because it's the women's issue of our time.
The thing is, Nick Masters, who's the governor of South Carolina, now is way more Trump and way more base than she ever was.
We're going to move on.
Yeah.
So they have
Mr.
moved past her,
Ramaswamy,
even if they ever supported
when discussing your Hindu faith in September, you seemed to take a shot at Ambassador Haley, who is also Indian American and who converted to Christianity as an adult. You said, an easy thing for me to do, being a politician, is to shorten my name, profess to be a Christian, and then run. Make Vivek Vicky or whatever, end quote. Are you questioning Nikki Haley's Christian convictions? And why has your campaign made a point of referring to Ambassador Haley by her given first name, Nimarata, even though she's gone by Nikki for her whole life?
Well, my whole deal is if Nikki Haley, of all people, should know how to pronounce my name correctly, the rest of the news media can learn it.
Vivek.
My deal is I'll call her Nikki when she can say my own name right. That's our little fun side bet there. Here's what I will say is deeper. I don't question her faith, but I question her authenticity. And I think that's deeper here. We were just talking about the trans issue. This is a symptom of a deeper cancer in American life, identity politics. This new religion that says your race, your gender, and your sexuality are your identity. It is anti-American. It is meritocratic, it's anti-meritocratic, and it is dividing this country to a breaking point. And I've spoken about this to the left. My books are all about this. I've preached this to the left, but it's even worse when Republicans try to play the same game. We're talking about that trans issue. And Nikki Haley's campaign launch video sounded like a woke Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light ad talking about how she would kick in heels. At the first debate, she said that only a woman can get this job done. That's what she said. After the third debate, when I criticized Ronna McDaniel after 5 failed years of leadership of this party and criticized Nikki for her corrupt foreign dealings as a military contractor, she said that I have a woman problem. Nikki, I don't have a woman problem. You have a corruption problem. Nikki is corrupt. This is a woman who will send your kids to die.
Whoa, oh my God, that was actually it. That was a real thing.
This is the problem.
I tweeted that thing that somebody sent out, and I thought that was a joke. I thought it was photoshopped. I retweeted that.
This is going to be a meme.
He did it on purpose.
There's going to be a big penis on it. Yeah, he's going to get tons of
Holy shit.
memes.
This is how this game
I thought that was a joke.
The puppet masters put up their puppet, and
He's doing that right now because he wants it to be a meme.
It has been a cancer.
He wants everyone to know his name.
And I'm sick and tired of the double standards of people.
That was amazing. My buddy sent me a picture of the tweet. I thought this was photoshopped. I thought it was photoshopped. Like, this is like 10 minutes ago.
Would you like to respond?
I thought it was photoshopped, and it's real.
It's not
But that's not him holding up. That's an overhead shot of him preparing it.
Correct.
She knows it's
I thought this was shot. And it's like, holy cow, it was real. Oh my God.
To you.
Okay, we got to move on to this.
I love
Now,
this.
by
Wow,
arrangement,
dude.
with the
I'm
Republican
going to
National
Photoshop
Committee,
something
we've
right
got
now,
some
actually.
questions for you about the Justice Department and our election system. Here's Tom Fitton with Judicial Watch.
No, let's just talk about Vivek crushing Nikki. Can we please talk about that, please? Vivek crushing Nikki? No?
That's
President Trump and many of his supporters claim
Oh,
that
hey,
his law
Tom.
enforcement agencies
Most yoked
have
fuck-
abused his civil rights for the
most
last
yoked
8
dude out
years
there.
by, among other things, spying on him and now prosecuting him while
deadlift
having
more than
treated
him.
Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden with kid gloves. A recent Gallup poll shows that Americans think more highly of the U.S. Postal Service than they do the FBI or Justice Department. What would you do as president to restore the faith of the American people in these agencies?
Well, first off, I'm the only person on this stage who's actually done a job in the Department of Justice. I was the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey in the 5th largest office in this country, appointed by President Bush on September 10th, 2001.
Okay.
And it was an extraordinary time in this country to be on the front lines of fighting the greatest attack against our country since Pearl Harbor. And I'm proud of the 7 years I spent in the Justice Department. And one of the reasons I am is because I had an Attorney General when I came in named John Ashcroft. And John Ashcroft stood up and told each and every one of us our job was to do one thing, to make sure justice was done every day, regardless of partisanship, regardless of gender or race or any other consideration. And that's what we did for 7 years. And at a time when our country was at its greatest moment of danger in the last 40 years, We did exactly that, and there was not another domestic terrorist attack on this soil. So what I would do as president, having had that experience, and the only one who's had that experience, is to pick an attorney general who will absolutely do the same thing that John Ashcroft did. To pick U.S. attorneys who will only care about making sure that justice is done without regard to any other consideration but the facts that are presented and whether someone is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt and the government can prove it. We have had attorneys general like Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch and Jeff Sessions and now our current attorney general who have not met that standard. And the only way you restore people's faith in the justice system is to put someone like that in charge of the Justice Department, and then as president, to get the hell out of the way on anything that involves criminal investigations. If a president's involved in trying to do something and put their thumb on the scale, as Donald Trump says he will do,
shut up.
That makes people much less likely to believe our justice system can be fair.
Thank you.
Was Chris talking? I didn't even notice.
Yeah, he made okay
Many
point.
Republicans are concerned about the legitimacy of elections.
They
A
have
federal
3
judge
women and they're
just
still
ruled that
calling in someone else to ask
Pennsylvania
questions.
must count undated mail-in ballots, and unlike Alabama, many states still don't require any identification to vote. What should states do now to increase election integrity and voter confidence for the 2024 election?
Blockchain.
Well, Tom, thanks for the question. Thanks for you guys doing Judicial Watch. It's really, really important. There's a lot of corruption in this government. You guys are doing a great job.
Judicial Watch is
What you
awesome.
should do for election integrity is do what we did in Florida. 20 years ago, Florida and elections was a joke. Everybody would laugh at it. I came in, I removed a couple supervisors from South Florida. We require voter ID universal, no Zuckerbucks, no mass mail balloting, and no ballot harvesting. We even have an agency that prosecutes people for violating election laws. The result of that, in both 2020 and 2022, we counted millions and millions of votes on election night, produced the results, it was transparent, and everybody was happy. That is not happening throughout this country. Let me tell you this as
and the biggest sale of the year, store-wide free shipping up to 60% off on X2 Turbo Force and more is live right now.
Many cults reach a point where mass murder is inevitable.
It's the cult. I mean, it's the cult of cults. It's the cult of truth.
It is no different with the climate change cult.
Many people who are in the middle of Manhattan and have maybe never been on the other side of the Hudson River can have these ideas in their heads somehow that we could eliminate fossil fuels. Well, it's a recipe for mass suicide. It's just quite amazing that someone that is in government, actually elected to the government of the United States of America, would propose that we eliminate all fossil fuels in 12 years. It would basically begin a process of cannibalization amongst the human species because the food could not be delivered to the stores in the middle of the cities anymore.
Recently at the 28th Annual United Nations Climate Change Conference, also known as COP28, Pope Francis issued an apostolic exhortation to fuel the climate crisis psyop. These people won't stop until all life on planet Earth is no more, as they continue to ignore the science.
Are you seriously suggesting we should be pumping more stuff in, polluting the earth more, building more coal-fired power stations just so we can make sure that the CO2 levels are good?
No, I'm not, because we're putting plenty of CO2 into the atmosphere. We don't need to do it this quickly, but if we bring it up to a higher level than it is today, we will get immediately an increase in the growth of crops and trees, which is not a bad thing. This tendency to go in the rich countries to wind and solar is a giant waste of money. Those wind farms will rust in place, and there is no fun to decommission them when they either wear out or we decide how ridiculous it is to spend so much money for so little electricity that isn't even reliable.
The climate right now is no warmer than it's been many times throughout history. Our baseline is now the lowest that carbon dioxide has been in 600 million years.
That won't stop King Charles from demanding that U.S. taxpayers pump trillions of dollars into their organization in order